Hey everybody, good evening. Thanks for being here tonight and hope you're doing well. Let's make a few quick adjustments here and we'll get started shortly. And wanted to say I hope everyone had a good weekend so far. It's almost over, but not quite. But I hope it's been a good weekend for you all. And tonight's topic we'll jump into in a little bit. And I'll also add the link in a little bit for people to jump in to join us. But tonight's topic that I'm going to give a little intro to first is called How Do You Cope with Knowing That Some of Our Loved Ones Will Never Escape Christianity? How do you cope with knowing some of our loved ones will never escape Christianity? And it's a hard topic. It's a really hard topic. And before I get into even my intro, I just want to mention that one of the things that I did today that I shared in a video earlier on the channel was I went to a church, a local church, and it's part of probably it'll either be just that one time that I go or possibly 2 or 3 max. The goal is to basically feel like there's some way in which I am facing down the nightmares of my past and looking closely at the things that have crushed me and hurt me, and sort of like the Goliaths in my life, and to face them, and also to ask myself the question, why was it so difficult to leave? Why were you so in love with your captor? Why were you so willing to think this was a good thing for so long? And so I went to church, and I see a few comments came in. I'll be reading your comments in just a second. But I went to church this morning, and that's not what I want to talk about today, for the most part. But I do think it was a good reminder to me, being in that church and seeing people. And I was sitting on a row where there was a family of 4 or 5 kids, and the parents were at the other end, but near me, with one seat in between me and this family, there was a little boy about the same age as my older son, about 10 years old. And you just think to yourself, these people, these kids, are being indoctrinated into Christianity at the earliest days. And it just hurts so much. And I have a lot of observations that I'll make in a different video about my time at the church. Again, I may go 2 or 3 times before I present that. I've got some interesting things to share. But it was a good segue, I think, from that to this topic of just knowing our loved ones will never escape. I didn't have loved ones in that church that I was in today, but they were people that could have been my loved ones. It could have been my friends. It could have been my coworkers. But they're stuck, and it hurts. It hurts to see it. Even people that are not, that they're just effectively they're your neighbors. They're my neighbors here in Alpharetta, Georgia. To see your neighbors and to think these people are stuck and they're getting their kids stuck, they'll never escape. So anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to go through a few quick comments, and then I'm going to do a quick intro, and then I'll share the link shortly. John Barton, thank you so much for being a new YouTube member. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. That's by the way, for anyone that doesn't know what that is, there's different ways to support me. Most of them are listed beneath this video, and one of the ones that's sort of right through YouTube, besides the super chats people can do, is to become a YouTube member. YouTube donations through YouTube are much slower. They hold them for about 6 to 7 weeks before you see them. So if you don't donate through becoming a YouTube member or super chat, which is always still welcome, it does take a very long time to get to me, almost 2 months. But I very much appreciate it. It all adds up in the long run. So thank you, John. Hey, Jason, great to see you. Thank you so much. I just woke up from the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, wow, that's awesome. Well, Jason, when the time is right to share your story, please reach out. Let me know. I know it's definitely not usually right away. You got to take some time to get grounded and get healthy and get healed. But we'd love to have you share your story sometime. So let me know, even if it's a year or 2 down the line. Please reach out. My handle on Facebook is Harmonic Tim. You're welcome to add me as a friend. It goes for anybody. My handle is Harmonic Tim on Facebook, and let me know. And I've been very skeptical ever since. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, stay very skeptical. Let's see here. Lesween Machine. Am I saying that right? The best in the business back. Oh, thank you so much. Bible bursting, truth thirsting, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy. Well, thank you so much. I don't think I've ever heard it described that way before, but thank you so much. I'll take that as a very, very, very nice compliment. Thank you so much. Hey, Mark. Mark loved my video from the park about going to church. So thank you so much. Appreciate that, Mark. Really do. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Noel's in the building. Hey, friend. Good to see your face. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Very important topic. Yeah, very, very important topic. And I just hope I can find a Christian woman that I can live with and have a family with that does not look at my past. If you're referring to your past regarding religion, that's obviously the biggest deal. You don't want to ever repeat the idea of creating your dearest ties and your loved ones are people stuck in mythology that are driven by that worldview to love their pretend God more than you. You should definitely be the top love of their life in that sense. But I hope very much you can find that as well. I mean, I can kind of ditto that, but I hope that very much that you find what you're looking for in that relationship and a lot of love. And I hope that in the meantime, I hope that there's a lot of community that rallies around you and cares about you and shows you that you're very welcome and appreciated. I'm a very honest, hardworking man that has no family now. Yeah, it's very hard, especially if you are if you're living in a situation where people have written you off or lost relationships. It's hard. It's really hard. Les says something we were not reasoned into cannot be reasoned out of. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Jason, I'm homeless, living in my car, but I hope Jesus will find me a better future. Well, Jason, I assume you already are in touch with different groups and charities that can help you. If not, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook at Harmonic Team. I'll be glad to try to see if I can connect with people in your area that would, be able to hopefully get you some help there. There's definitely enough groups out there that usually you can find something that can get you through at least the hardest parts. And Prophetic Forensics, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So tonight's topic, again, is just how do you cope with knowing that our loved ones, some of them, will not ever escape Christianity. And I just included the link there. I'm not going to have anybody on for another minute or two, but just wanted to share a quick intro, but you can get ready to join StreamYard when you're ready if you want to jump in. But I think this topic is definitely a topic that has a lot of aches for a lot of us. You think about your whole family, your childhood, your family album. You think about all the people that you've been talking to forever, and then you wake up, you realize that this is mythology, and you realize that you are such a better person and that this has truly turned you into a bit of a monster, as we like to say here. And you just wish for them. You wish for them that they would also see you're better than this. There's a better way. And then you realize that they're not really probably gonna see it that way. And it breaks your heart. It really breaks your heart. Leaving Christianity is at this point tearing through a lot of the layers of your life. It's torn through your heart. It's torn through, what you thought was going to happen with the afterlife, and with your relationship with ultimate reality with God. But then you add this other layer, this other sorrow, the realization that some of these people that we love are never, ever, ever going to leave. They're never going to escape it. And we use the illustration a lot of the Matrix, and we explain to them, you are stuck in the Matrix. And they say, no, I'm not. And like, yes, you are. And no, I'm not. And you eventually have to decide for yourself if those conversations are even worth having, because all they can say is, no, I'm not. In fact, I'm the most free I've ever been. And you're the one that's stuck. And you just feel like you're banging your head against a wall. And they keep saying stuff, that basically leads to the idea that your supposed freedom from Christianity is actually just rebellion against God. And it's dangerous. And it's a failure. And you've chosen emptiness. You've chosen darkness. There's such a cruelty to it all. You've pursued what it took to be the best version of yourself and to pursue the most truth. And at that point, like, all the doors are locked. All the doors are locked. And even if you choose with your loved ones, and by the way, if anybody wants to jump in here to the live stream, feel free. The link is in the comments there. No pressure. But if you want to, you're welcome to join at any point. I'll just jump in and out as people jump in and out of the live stream. But you've at this point you've got all these locked doors, and even just like ordinary conversations where, let's say that you decide to just agree to disagree and say, let's not talk about it, even if you're just talking about the weather or your plans for the weekend with your loved ones. That there's that ache, that behind the scenes, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking, gosh, our relationship is life, and gosh, you're so wrong. And even as something as simple as how are you? It's like they're performing, and you feel like you need to perform, and really you're always on the verge of this theological conversation, where they want you to accept Jesus again, and it's hard. You've got all these memories, you got all this love for them, this history with them, and but you still have to move forward. You still have to go to birthday parties if hopefully you're invited. You still have to go to birthday parties. There's still the old inside jokes and the meals. You might still be able to go to your childhood house, see your old bedroom, all the family stories. These people that were our world, they were our home. They were central to everything. And at this point, your family map, so to speak, is cut in two. And they recognize you recognize them, but it's not the same. All the meaning underneath is kind of shifted like tectonic plates. It's all a little different. It's all there, but it's different. A lot of us, I think, live on that edge of the hopefulness. Maybe one more bit of information, maybe one more conversation that we, just say it a little differently, a little bit better. Maybe one more late night conversation or exchange, and maybe there's just some honest moment that will crack open that window. And yet we see people staying. They stay and they stay and they stay. Christianity wraps itself around families, or wraps itself around people's identities. It's part of their morality. Heaven and hell come into the equation. It's part of Christian marriages, godly marriages, the Christian community, the church. All the guilt of we didn't raise you right. We didn't do this right. If it's your parents we're talking about, if it's your spouse or siblings, the hope that they all have that there'll be this ultimate meaning you will come to. You'll wake up and trust Christ again. And then when you deconverted, you pulled the thread out from all that, and they're terrified, they're upset, they're shocked. And you look at this and say, is there any way that you all can think about this? Is there any way you could possibly escape from mythology? And we know that that would threaten them so much. That would threaten them so much. It would threaten their whole life's meaning for some of them, their life's work, potentially, if they're missionaries. They're guarding their system. They're guarding their worldview so much. They're guarding themselves. They're guarding the terror. And so this is really in some ways about both perhaps ways that we come up with how to talk to them, but also ways that we come up with just simply saying, I understand that these conversations have just as much chance of not going somewhere as going somewhere. Who knows? Maybe you should argue they have a much greater chance of not going somewhere. But we're not going to be able to win all the arguments. We're not going to be able to even have a lot of the arguments. They won't even listen. And so we're in a sense learning, thinking through, how do we love people? How do we tell the truth? How do we share what we've learned? How do we protect our recovery? How do we keep building our lives in a way that seems rich and honest and healthy and thriving? But acknowledging that there's people around us where they're not going to leave Christianity. And we've had so much freedom that we've come to, but it's like this aftershock of like, oh, but they're not going to leave. You've just left that house that's on fire. The house that's on fire, it's been burning and burning and burning, and you've screamed at them, please get out. And they say, no, the house is not on fire. We're not leaving. We don't have to leave. There's no issue here. And yet we know that they are wasting their lives. They are stuck in a lie. They're stuck in something pretty horrific, in our opinion. They're stuck in a worldview it's basically from ancient Canaanite religion, ancient Canaan. And Sometimes when you leave Christianity, you almost have to admit there's a part of you that's saying, if I leave Christianity, I'm leaving my loved ones. And that's why some people can't, in some ways, do it in the same way. They have to say, I have to stay, um, in a sense, addicted to this. I have to stay at the level where I can truly stay connected. I can't afford to lose this, whether it's a marriage or a job or relationship with parents. And so I think tonight my goal is just to partially talk through some ideas as to how we think through it, but also just to sit through the ache. Sometimes you have to sit in that ache and be tender with yourself and say, your humanity is what you were pursuing. You were becoming the best version of yourself, the best version of your humanness, the most honest in terms of academic, and honest with the reality of what the Christian worldview entails. And you've done your best. You've done more than your best. And you've been so admirable in this. You've been so brave. And they have no intention of following your path. So, again, if anybody wants to join, you're very welcome to. The first thing I want to say, that was like an intro. And again, I'll just chop it off if someone joins. But we're going to have to just admit, first and foremost, that we're in a grieving process. And it, in some ways, is going to be a long-term grieving process. We've lost far more than just our beliefs in this process. All the shared background, the shared beliefs, the shared worldview, the shared assumptions, shared meaning, it's all disappeared or shifted. The shared language is no longer there. I know when I was growing up, there were so many people in my family that were Christians, at least in name and in how you did it, that it would have been a completely normal assumption. For example, if we had a larger family gathering at Thanksgiving, to say, everyone please bow your heads and close your eyes. We're starting family dinner for Thanksgiving, and we're going to say grace. Everybody in the room, pretty much, not forever, but for a long time, everybody in the room would have pretty much done it. I had one cousin who, I don't know how it quite happened, but he married a Buddhist girl, and she's been very, very respectful. When the whole family says, bow your heads, close your eyes, she does so out of respect for them and for their history of it. But apart from that one, almost everybody assents to a Christian worldview, either very, very intensely or at least somewhat intensely in a cultural sense. And that's the framework. That's what ties us all together. And then you come out, as it were, and you say, I'm not that person anymore. And if we pray, I'm never going to pray for you again. I'll be quiet. I even bow my head if I have to, but I'm not going to pray for you all. And I don't think we're doing anything significant when we pray. And there you are at the Thanksgiving table, sort of shoved to the side. It's hard. And it feels, I think, one example, I think, is like if you've crossed over a river, like you've swum across it, the river and you've got to the other side, and then you look across and you thought some people might also be open to swimming across with you. You realize none of them are coming. They're on the other side of the river. They're going to stay there. And they're going to look at you. They're going to stare at you, but they're not coming to this side of the river. And that's hard. It's hard because you're now very much alone. And a lot of them are going to start saying platitudes and patronizing things to you, such as, I hope you find what you're looking for, or God's going to bring you back. And they never seem to ask the question of what broke open in your faith that made you leave. Why did you leave? They don't even care. You might have a sibling, parent, loved one say, I'm worried about you. I'm worried about your soul. And they might have absolutely no interest in really hearing you out. No interest in the years that you could recount, the years of fear and of shame and of your studies, what you've learned, the anguish that you went through, the integrity that led to your departure. And they don't care. They just don't care. And so, there's a pain of leaving Christianity, and there's the secondary pain, the secondary aftershock of realizing our loved ones will never follow us, and they will never even grasp or even necessarily care to know why you left. It really hurts. Really hurts. And a lot of you would say, yeah, that's exactly what happened. They don't care. Some of them will ask, some of them will say, I disagree. But a lot of them will just say, I literally don't want to know. I don't want to know. So before I go on to another point, I'm going to read a few comments. Oh, wow, quite a few comments came in. See here, Mark says, I regret facilitating my children's indoctrination. Yeah, for sure. It gets to a lot of us. Considering everything that I've learned since childhood has been lies, I'm very skeptical about where I learn new truth. That's awesome. Yeah, keep staying skeptical. Even on this channel, be skeptical of me. Don't let anybody get you again. It's very important. My sister is still one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and she does not speak to me anymore. I am hurt. Yeah, that's awful. I'm so very sorry. But at least I'm not worried about their eternal future. Mark says, it's not like believing or otherwise will make any difference once they're dead. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Jason, your story is very hard. Never had a birthday party. Yeah, I hear that's what JWs do. I'm so very sorry. It's definitely the next time you have a birthday, live it up, man. Live it up double time if you can. I'm so very sorry. It's that's sounds like some really incredibly difficult situations and aspects of your scenario that you're dealing with. I'm so sorry. I really hope that some people rally around you. At the time, they both believed that I would see them once again in paradise earth, but that's a lie. Yeah. It is very sad, and now I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my life at 56 years old because I did not save for retirement, and I feel alone in this cold world. Well, obviously, I can't fix all that, but I can say this: we care about you. We'd love to have you jump into our community whenever you have the chance and the bandwidth to jump into our live streams or to comment or whatever. You're very welcome to tell us, that you're here and to just let us know. Yeah, a lot of us can relate to the financial vulnerability. Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I don't even know how to pray properly anymore. I want to have a relationship with God, but I don't know who He is now. This channel is an atheist channel, Jason. So we're not trying to find God or pray to God. There's no He to know as far as we're concerned. So we're of the mindset that there's just no evidence for that. But I do wish you well in your journey towards whatever version of spirituality you feel like you need to pursue. Noel says, I feel like my Christian family members, excuse me if I can talk, never actually knew me. I was just a soul to be saved and kept by them. But I still miss the simple stuff, laughing and joking and eating together. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard when you realize that it's not going to be the same. I do sometimes think that to myself, and thank you, Noel, for sharing that. I do sometimes think to myself, boy, oh boy, if some of our family members do ever leave, and it's probably in some cases only going to be like one of 10 people, they're not all going to do it. But just in that sense of just one more person leaves. I mean, true, not like just has a few doubts, but actually leaves and says, yeah, this is mythology. Number one, if they've been a jackass to you, for them, they're probably going to have to eat crow and say, man, I can't believe I didn't see it. But also, more importantly, and hopefully you can be extremely gracious, all of us can be extremely gracious if and when that ever happens, and not make them feel bad, not make them feel like they were idiots. We all got stuck in it. But hopefully they can save face a little bit. And we can hopefully say to them basically like, look, it's okay. It's okay. And I care, like, the past is the past. It's water under the bridge, but you have escaped. That's the biggest picture. You escaped. You got out. And I'm so glad you did. But now you know how it feels because you were on the other side of it. So now that you're on the other side of it, let me help you. I'm now 5, 6, 7, 10 years removed from where you are. I know what it feels like to be in your shoes. And I can help you. I can absolutely help you to get through this. And no judgment. We all got stuck in it. Excuse me one second. Mark says, I know what you mean, Jason. I remember realizing I don't know what God even is now. Yeah. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with being in that in-between phase, Jason, just because I'm an atheist and other people are agnostics or atheists. Don't feel in any way like you're not welcome here. We don't allow proselytization for Christianity on this channel, but anyone that's just saying I honestly don't know. I'm just searching. I'm an agnostic. That's totally normal from my perspective. We all are looking for the questions of meaning and purpose and beauty, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Haynes Animate says, absolutely. I feel like another seed that was just born to continue and cultivate their bloodline. Like I was just another milestone or toy for them to have. Yeah. Or in many cases, I think a lot of us would even say we just felt like another soldier in the Lord's army, but they're a particular small, localized version of God's army in your family and in your church. Love Dr. Pepper says, Jason, if you do want to hope like I hope, if you do want to hope like I like to hope, we have a humanistic God who cares about our best interest, not his own glory. However, you do not need God or the idea of a God to live a good, happy life. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if it helps you to believe that there's possibly a God or to hope for a God, I would say that probably the issue in many ways for a lot of us is not just the idea of whether there's a God or not. It's the idea that our language to describe what we're looking for is very, very immature. It's very incomplete. And we haven't thought through all the aspects of what that would be. Like, what is a God? Not God as in like the Abrahamic gods, but just what are we, when we say God, do we mean that? Do we mean Yahweh or Allah kind of stuff? Do we mean Yahweh and Jesus kind of stuff? What do we mean by it? And for a lot of us, if we really are honest, we would admit that we have a very immature perspective on just the word God. And for example, we don't know for sure if we're talking about one God or many gods. We're talking about a deistic spirit versus a personal God, like evangelical Christianity points out and pushes us to. If we're talking about a super advanced alien race that's just been around for a quadrillion years, and like imagine humans, if we don't blow ourselves up and we become spacefaring and Star Trek happens and we expand and expand, we figure out how to travel at the speed of light and all this stuff. It just goes on and on for a trillion years. Eventually our technology would be so amazing in that kind of outcome, that kind of story, that if as we travel, we could, a trillion years from now in the future with a beautiful, hopefully safe, species that traveled the universe and did not just blow itself up with weapons, that if we eventually came across a species like us in our current state, but we're a trillion years in the future with our technology, we would look like gods to them. The ability to beam in and out of spaceships, the ability to make things, like Star Trek, replicate food in a heartbeat. It would all be obviously the super advanced technology, but we have no way. We would have no way to know for sure if we saw God, if that's not what was happening. And also we have no idea just even the size of the universe or what time really means. So I like to say this, but we could be, this whole universe, all of it could be a drop in somebody's watering can. And that's all we've ever been. We've just been a drop in somebody's watering can. How would you know? You wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. So we can hope all we want, but our language to even describe what we want is insufficient. Not totally related to this topic, but I want to voice out my problem. Well, we're going to keep things pretty much on topic. We're not trying to go off topic too much, but if you have something you want to bring up, you can put it in comments and I may address it, but if not, someone else in the group may, but you're welcome to put it in there. If it's something that you want addressed as a bigger topic, feel free to reach out to me and just say, hey, this is a topic in my mind. Can we touch base on this at some point? Let me know. I'm glad to consider anything. Love Dr. Pepper says, personally, I like to believe in not Yahweh, but a man who's watching us and looking out for us, but not judging us, but rather smiling at us. One who's the total opposite of Yahweh in character. But that's just what I like to hope. I'm not saying you should believe in it, hope it's real or care about that. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. No else asked me, hey, Tim, do you currently have loving and kind family friends who are Christians? I'm dying of curiosity to know how you manage those. Good question, and feel free to answer the same question back if you want to, either in comments or coming on if you're free tonight. But to answer the question first for my side, do I have loving and kind family and friends who are Christians? I have a mom who's a fundamentalist evangelical Christian. We choose to just basically not address this question. and we focus on the grandkids and the birthday parties. She's got a beautiful heart. She loves, but if you were behind closed doors, I'm sure, and asked her what do you think about it, she would cry because she's got a son who's going to hell. But that's just part of the dynamic. I've got a younger brother. He and his wife are missionaries. They literally travel around the world sharing the gospel. Literally, he's been in Ukraine. He's been all over Africa. He's been in Asia, just in the last year or two. He goes around sharing the gospel and equipping missionaries. We don't talk about it at all. We talk about the kids a little bit, but we don't talk about it. But there's certainly a distance there. I think there would be a closeness that would be more likely, much more likely, if we were both still Christians. I've got an older brother and a younger sister up north, up in New York State and Pennsylvania, where I would, nothing rude intended towards them at all, but I would have, when I was a Christian, I would have called them more casual Christians. At this point, obviously, I don't care. I don't give a rat's ass about what kind of Christian they are, whether they're committed or not. But I would say it's probably easier to imagine that they might deconstruct someday, being that they're not, in my mind, taking it too seriously. I mean, they're going to go to church. They're going to, whatever, genuflect. They're going to say their prayers. They're going to be respectful to the Christian theology. But it's not like they're trying desperately to get to the mission field and trying desperately to share the gospel with every last person that they can. So we care about each other. In terms of friends, obviously I lost my marriage over this. That just ended a little this week. Just got the divorce decree this week, so obviously that cost me that very dearly. It's hard. It's a hard situation. I do have a friend here now, Ferretta, who's a British guy, British friend of mine. He and his wife, they go to church, but when you push them for like, what do you mean by it? They would say, oh, well, all we mean is we just think Jesus was a good teacher. Well, do you think he was the son of God? No, of course not. Was he born a virgin? No. Why would that matter? It's like, so he and I are friends and we talk. He goes to church, but to him, it's no big deal. He reads books by Buddhists and stuff. So I've got a friend like that that's a Christian in some sense. But I would say the majority of my friends right now are online, and the majority of my friends right now are deconstructing or deconverted. And case in point. So that breaks my heart. But when you leave Christianity, often for a lot of us, I think the online community, I mean, fortunately we live in this world where there is an online community. I mean, imagine if we had lived just 15, 20 years ago where the internet was not really there or developed yet. I mean, it would have been so much more difficult. You would have been truly, deeply, profoundly, relentlessly alone. So I feel like this is really what saves us, rescues us from feeling so alone, is the fact that we have the internet and things like Facebook. I know we bash Facebook all the time and we bash this and that. I get it, but you know what? They keep a lot of us connected in ways we would have no way to connect with otherwise. But thanks for asking. In terms of how I manage those, Noel, I would say people know where I stand. We honestly just were ships passing in the night. Sad to say, but we don't talk about it. There's very few people in my life that I would say, oh, they're part of my inner circle of family and loved ones and close dear ones, but they're Christians and we just bash heads about this stuff. No, it is basically a non-issue. It's just a non-issue in the sense of it's a non-topic. We don't bring it up. Just live and let live, which is interesting because as a Christian, you're not supposed to do that. You have to have a reason. Share the reason for the hope that's in you. You have to go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature. So they're kind of ignoring clear commands from God to save my soul. But I could make some more comments on that, but I'll leave that there. Mind Escape says, leaving Christianity has been one of the best decisions I've made in my life. That's awesome. Praise the Lord. I don't know if a God exists, but it really doesn't matter because it has no bearing or effect on my life here on earth. Yes, absolutely. It is, I like to say it's mythology and it is irrelevant. That's so cool. I'm so glad that you can say it's been one of the best decisions of your life. That's awesome. Very, very good stuff. Anybody here ever read the book The Darkening Age by Catherine Nixie? Not me. An incredible book detailing the horrible history of early Christianity and it's spread through Europe by the sword. I've not heard of that. It sounds familiar. Somebody recommended a book to me like 6 months ago, and it might have been that one. Might not have been, but it rings a bell, but it's possible it was the same one. But I will look it up. Thanks for letting me know. Prophetic Forensics. Great to have you in the house. Thanks for joining us tonight. Listening to your poem and the comments, I realized how fortunate I was to become the only Christian in generations, and I was in my 20s. My family was like, how on earth did you become a Christian? I'm guessing there's more you're going to add to that. I'm guessing you're going to add that you escaped Christianity, but I'll wait just to read the rest of that till you type it in, obviously. Mark Richter says that's such a British attitude. Yeah. The Jesus Deception by Adam Green is an incredible new book on the Midrashic mythical origins of the Jesus story and detailing the purpose of the Messiah story in real-world application. Okay, thank you. So what is wrong with the commandments? I would like to say Jesus is right about everything, so atheists on the left are violent and look upset. Fiona, I'm guessing that you are what I would consider a troll, so I wish you well. I wish you well. Mark Richter says that liberal church life helps my deconversion out of evangelical spaces. Yeah. Liberal churches, I think in some ways they're dangerous and that they're one step away from fundamentalism, but they can be still helpful as you step out, especially if they're willing to help you step away from things like hell and step away from being, gay bashing kind of stuff. They're willing to toe the line on that stuff and step away from all the horrible aspects of fundamentalism. You can kind of be a nice step off platform to get to the point of agnosticism or atheism. Do you truly believe there was never a creator? No, I don't say there's never been a creator. I just say that there's not a God in the way that we've described him in terms of Abrahamic religions and the world religions that we have. We don't know. None of us know if there's a creator. None of us know how this universe came here. There's obviously the big old question of why is there something rather than nothing. We're not saying there's no creator. We're just simply saying that all the answers we've seen so far do not match the descriptions of the world's religions. We're very open. That's what being an agnostic means in a sense. Like, I don't know. We're not saying we know that there's no God and we know there's no creator. What we're saying is I don't see the evidence for it, but we're very glad to see it if we can have it. But we don't think that there's a personal God the way that Christianity describes it. We don't think the Abrahamic gods are real. If the evidence ever points to a creator, we'll be the first ones to line up and say that's great. Well, like it's probably something we could, scientifically look at together and talk about it and have honest discussions about what we know and what we can prove and verify. But it shouldn't be something where like one little tribe in the middle of the desert gets the special word from this God, but all the other people, there's tribes all over the planet, none of them get it. This one little tribe gets it, and he's got to fit in there his favorite. That's utter bullshit. That's the kind of stuff we're saying is wrong. Nobody here's saying there's no creator. We're saying that we don't see the evidence for the gods that our world has come up with. I hope that makes sense. Hope that's helpful. There's nothing wrong with saying, for example, there is a lot of order in this universe. Where did the order come from? There's a lot of beauty in this universe. Where did the beauty come from? There's a lot of, reasons that we just have to ask, like, why is there something at all? But for every one of those reasons that you can come up with that make you think, well, maybe there's a creator, there's also a lot of questions of, well, why is there so much destruction? Most of the universe would completely destroy life in a second. Why does it look like the universe may have be going through cycles where it cycles in and out of existence, like a big bang that collapses and then explodes again, a big bang, and then potentially collapses again and over. Like what's happening there? We don't know. We have no idea what's happening with that. And if that's and who knows? 2 years from now, that science will change and they'll say no, that's not what we think happened, and something else happened. We're just guessing. Scientists we're all guessing. What we're saying is the Christian answers are completely deficient. They're completely erroneous. They are clearly mythology based. And if you're going to follow Jesus, you might as well follow Dionysius. I mean, you literally might as well follow Dionysius because you actually kind of are. So it doesn't make sense. That's all we're saying. Do I hope for a creator? Again, I think our language is deficient for it. We don't know. We don't. If you've been trained to say creator / God equals an Abrahamic kind of God, and that's your whole structure, and you can't move past it, then to say, is there a creator and a God, you're restricted to that definition. That's not what we're trying to say. There's probably a better definition, a broader definition, a broader concept, and we can't get there. We don't know. But I mean, think of it this way too. I want to think. I'm talking with a guy, a friend of mine, who's really got some great ideas about some deep philosophical stuff, and he's been talking about how he as a kid would look at anthills, right? When you look at ants and you just say you're a kid, you're just studying them, just looking at them. My kids love. There's a very cute cartoon called Ant Bully about a kid that's a bully. Pours water down the ant hole and floods the ant hole, and then eventually they find a way to shrink him down so he's the ant size, and he becomes part of the community for a few days, and they show him that just to stop doing that to them. But Ant Bully is a cute little movie. But if you're looking at the ants, do they understand almost anything that we understand? Do they understand things like weather patterns or science? We know that some animals and insects are connected to through their instincts to the magnetic poles and stuff, but do they understand anything? Do they understand almost anything that we're seeing? I think we could argue that the ants understand far, 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 far less than we do. And you have to ask yourself next time, what if we're the ants of this universe? What if we're the ants? We have no grasp. The things we look at are just, we're in this little super tiny microcosm. We have no idea how to even ask the right questions. Hope that helps. Live and let live. I love that. I want everyone to be set free from ideas like hell or an authoritarian or a punitive God of any kind at all, but I'm strongly live and let live when it comes to believing. Yeah. Hey, Shell's in the house. Great to see you. My grandma and whole mom's side and my husband's side are all still Christians. I've tried to have great conversations, but it goes nowhere. For my older family members, I wouldn't want to ruin that for them because they're so set in their ways and have lost a lot of loved ones they're hoping to see again. Yeah, that is really hard. For my younger family members, I just hope to engage them in critical thinking and talk about history. Yeah, for sure. Bear with me 1 second. I think I have a troll. Let me see. There's only one seat on the throne. Yeah, I've got a troll here. 1 second. Mind Escape says, I was a very broken person when I was introduced to Jesus and this idea of living forever. If I had been in a healthy mindset and had critical thinking skills, I would have never fallen for it. Yeah, agreed. A lot of us, it's either that or they get you while you're so young that you don't even have the ability yet that's developed to think through it carefully. Prophetic Forensic says, just saying, I never considered the harm of children indoctrinated. After your poem, I cried over what was revealed through your reflections. I raised my son in the church. I'm sorry now. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us would do that. We're sorry for some people have kids that they've raised, or I did not get that far, but I did make a difference for a lot of other families. As a youth, I was a quasi youth pastor for several years, and I was leading a lot of small group Bible studies and Sunday schools and this and that. It breaks your heart to think about being involved in all this stuff. Great to see you, Noel, Mark, from Michelle. Mind Escape, exactly. Indoctrination takes advantage of our vulnerability. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Absolutely. Your vulnerability and your ignorance. I've seen so many trolls who attempt to be disruptive and distracting. I find them to be annoying. Yeah. I'm sorry. I blocked, I think, all of them at this point, but yeah, they slip in before I know that they're there. See here. I never knew a Christian until I became one at 26. Then I raised one, and now I have regrets. Yeah, I mean, if you are at the spot where you you believe that was the real worldview, you believe that was all correct and good, what else could you have done in one sense? But there's also the reality that we are culpable for what we chose. Just because we defended an abuser because we thought that was the right choice doesn't mean that we still shouldn't be trying to make amends, in my opinion, trying to fix it. That's one of the several big motivators for me. I've got a lot of other motivators for why I do what I do, but One of them is I want to help people escape to offset the incredible damage I did. Thankfully, it wasn't as big as some, but it's just, you never know. I mean, you never know what seeds you planted. I preached more sermons than I can count. It wasn't hundreds, but it was dozens and dozens and dozens for years. A lot of street preaching, a lot of preaching to the youth group, a lot of preaching in Sunday school, preaching in church, preaching in soup kitchens. Who knows? Who knows that I didn't influence somebody to become a pastor who's now leading thousands into this mythology. I may have been part of that whole string of events, and just it's sad. It's very sad. So I get you. I'm curious if your stream might have garnered the attention of theists who might want to chat with you in a respectful way. Yeah, it's possible. I don't feel like it's my should I say calling? My calling to engage with theists. I see this channel much more as I'm looking to help and be a source of support for people that are willing to already say we're done with this. There's a lot of channels that do engage. I think like Derek's Myth Vision engages somewhat. There's others where there's a lot of argumentation back and forth. Let's fight about it. This is more for people that are done. They're saying, because if you think about it from this perspective, if you had been in a marriage relationship, and some of you could say probably you have been, like what I'm about to say, but if you'd been in a marriage relationship where you had been severely abused, and then that marriage ended, and you moved on, and you went to counseling, and your counselor, I know this is not the way it would work, but if a counselor were to suggest, let's bring your abusive ex into this therapy session and talk through it with them, I'd be like, there's no way that would be ever healthy. You don't want your abuser in when you're healing. And that's how I see this channel. This channel is a place for people that are done with the abuse. They're done with the garbage. They want to heal. And so to say, let's engage with the abusers. Let's engage with the deceivers. Let's engage with the liars. Let's engage with the people that were power hungry, that think they can control the narrative. Let's engage with them and bring them into the private discussion and to our healing process. I wish them well, but they're not welcome here. This is a safe place for people healing, and Christians are not safe. There has to be a creator for all the DNA and detailed things for life to be, but whether there's a God that actually cares about suffering is another issue. Yeah, I mean, again, we could talk about that all day. I don't want to get too far off track, but yeah, I would agree that there's probably a big question mark in a lot of our minds as to if there had been a God, why would he let why would they let there be suffering, especially children? But again, I'm not going to get too far off track. This is about how do we cope with knowing that some of our loved ones will never escape. Mark says, prophetic, I have the same regrets about raising my kids as Christian. Yeah. Shell says, Noel, the megachurch pastor interview, I think, brought a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, it did. It was awesome to see how many people have been watching that. And he did a great job. There's definitely some questions that we left off the table that I'd love to bring them back for, and hopefully at some point we do a second where we end up sort of knocking down some other big topics. But it was a great start. Fire and Believers, Noel says, I'd love to watch you kick their ass with hard questions and facts. Yeah. I don't know if I could or not, but I would definitely say that I would love to I'd love to show them, in a sense, if they're willing to watch enough and listen enough, I'd love to show them we're doing just fine without your God. You Christians are so quick to say, without this, our worldview, our faith, it's utter darkness. I'd love to basically say, thanks for sharing, but you're really not welcome here. This is a safe place for us. But before you go, as you leave, just understand we're doing just fine. We're doing just fine, and we're getting better every day. So, Love Dr. Pepper says, I'm just curious, Tim, and I highly respect you, whatever your answer is. Would you like there to be a father who's looking out for us and smiling at us, not judging us, or does even that trigger you? I think of it a little bit, I think more holistically now because of this comparative mythology. I would love to think that there's a father and a mother looking out for us, smiling at us. I'd love to think that there's not as much per se that, but I just love to think that there's some sense that what we do matters. That I am, my belief system is that I'm a nihilist. My worldview is the opposite. I want to believe that it counts and it matters. My worldview says that what we do matters. My belief system of nihilism says, no, it doesn't. They fight. And it would be nice to know that nihilism's not true. I think it is true, unfortunately, or not true, but it's the most accurate philosophy that I've seen. Nothing we do matters, and that hurts. I'd love to know that we're going to at some point have rewards for what we do, and that being good matters, and that loving people matters, or at least to know that there's maybe not rewards, but there's a good ending to the story. And I do wish for heaven. I don't think we get it. I'm quite confident we don't get it, but I wish I could live forever. I don't mean like I want to live for 10,000 years or 20,000 years. I mean, I want to live forever and ever and ever. Dark God 6 says it's a trap from birth. Yeah, for sure. That's why I love this space, Tim. I'm so done with all that. I'm not interested in debating anymore. It's time to grow and heal. Yeah, for sure. No worries. You can call me whatever you want. What's that expression? Call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. I'm in the midst of a twin tower collapse of my faith and identity. In between place, very disorienting. Yeah. Prophetic forensics. It is so disorienting, and everything you've ever known is like what's real anymore. And to know one thing that helps, I think, a lot of us is to realize that when you've been praying, when you've been talking to God and hoping for God to be involved in your life, that whole time you have actually been talking to yourself. And so when it felt like God came through for you, it was you that came through for you. And I hope that helps you in some way to remind yourself you're your own savior, not in some spiritual sense. I don't mean like in the religious sense, but you're your own savior in the sense that you're the one that's been fighting for you. You hoped God was fighting for you, that God was listening to you. You've been fighting for you. You've been listening to you. You are the closest you're going to come to someone that's going to save you and fight for you and rescue you. You can rescue yourself, but it takes a while to realize that that's what's been happening, and that it's okay for that to continue to be the dynamic. You fight for you. Les Wien says the biggest issue about these Abrahamic religions is the real world threat they pose to peace and freedom. Yep. Hyperstition will allow prophecy to occur in the real world, apocalyptic consequences. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's insane to me that people with apocalyptic worldviews have their fingers on the buttons and the numbers and the codes of the most dangerous weapons in the world. Unbelievable. I mean, fortunately, I don't think Trump is actually a Christian in the real sense. I think he's just playing a big game. I think even Christians are seeing that now. But still, the fact that he kowtows to Christians and he's the one that's got the access to those weapons it's just beyond me. We absolutely. I hope our world eventually figures out that only people who do not have a mythology-based worldview should have access to those weapons. And hopefully, we can just eventually get rid of all the weapons. It'd be nice. I think about John Lennon's song "Imagine" all the time. Saved and served 40 years. Yeah, same here. Yeah, it took me 43 years to get out. Shell says, Jason, there doesn't need to be early simple forms of life, just needed to string amino acids together through peptide bonds. Bonds form under the right conditions from chemical reactions. Les Wien says, we must oppose the Torah proactively. The apocalyptic end times prophecies are an existential threat to humanity and freedom itself. Government is pushing hard to promote them. We must be willing to talk. I don't know that I would say we're opposing the Torah. I'm not even to say we're opposing the Bible. I guess in some ways we are, but it's more we're opposing the idea of a mythology-based worldview. We're not trying to call out one particular group only and say, only the Christians are the bad people, only the people that are following Allah are the bad people. It's this, we're all hyper deceived. That's the issue. We're all hyper deceived, and we've all taken books that probably weren't even written originally as religious, like in the sense that they were written to create a religion. They couldn't have foreseen where this would all go, but they were written for specific people in specific times to create like identity documents for certain tribes, and it became the rallying cry that eventually became the worldview. So we're basically just saying we want to say these books are interesting, these books are fascinating. We don't oppose them. We simply say they're in the category of mythology. Like it's like saying, do we oppose books that explain the mystery cult of Dionysius? Do we oppose Homer's Odyssey because it has a bunch of demigods mixed in it? No, we're not opposed to Homer's Odyssey. We're not opposed to the Bible. We're opposed to the Christian worldview. We're opposed to the Judeo-Christian worldview. We're opposed to the Muslim worldview because we're saying they are deceived and they are dangerous, like I think you're trying to allude to. But I want to make sure I make that clarification. We're not opposed to the Torah. We're just saying the Torah belongs in a category called mythology. That's all. It's mythology. That's all it is. Thanks so much for all you do for those recovering from Christianity. Oh, thanks, Mel. I appreciate that. I tend to be more of a fighter. I appreciate that you're a lover, but still value truth above all else. Yeah, at least I want to be. I definitely want to be. Hopefully we can all keep going and do better every day. Live and let live didn't cut it for Rome, and the subsequent dark ages, of course, be reasonable, but definitely let's speak our truth when appropriate. Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to speak out, fight for the truth, the reality that mythology-based worldviews tend to be violent and tend to be savage. And we're just basically saying, isn't humanity better than that? Are we not yet past this point? Can we stop saying men are better than women? Can we stop saying men are more important or powerful than women? Can we stop saying that we need to mutilate children's genitals? Can we stop saying that we have a right to land theft and genocide? Can we please stop saying that stuff? Aren't we better as a species? And of course, Christians and other religions want to say, nope. That's actually what we need to get back to. So it's pretty sick. This is a mind virus. Love Dr. Pepper says, even if there's no God, things you do matter. If what you do makes you happy or helps someone else, that is what I think makes something matter. You don't need a God to say it matters. Yeah, agreed. Tim, what you do matters to your kids. What we do in this space has meaning for us all here. That's enough. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Morality comes from our hearts, the golden rule, the non-aggression principle, fairness, etc. Giving that glory to a vengeful and jealous bloodthirsty God is a disservice to humanity, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're basically taking the worst parts of our nightmares, the worst parts of our savagery, the worst parts of our tribal addiction to blood magic and to animism, putting it all on steroids and saying this is the ultimate truth. And it's just luck of the draw that it happened to be Christianity. We could have easily been doing this with Mithraism, which would have been very similar. It was just the flavor of the month that happened to stick, and it's time for it to unstick. Any mythology that can't be questioned, that's from the perspective of holiness, stunts critical thinking and facilitates dangerous tribalism because people believe they're backed by God. Yeah, the universe is alive, and humans play an important role in weaving its webs. Psychedelics will help deconvert both Abrahamic and atheists alike. I'm not sure how to respond to that, so I'm just not going to respond to that. But again, if anybody wants to jump in, I'm going to put the link in again. But I want to go on to my next main point here until someone jumps in. I think it's important for us to, I've just caught up with the comments. I'll read more as we go on here. But I think it's important for us to say, not just to admit the grief over this, but also to say that we've come to the conclusion that facts are not going to change beliefs. Evidence is not going to move most people that we wish it would. We think it should. It moved us. But for a lot of people, they didn't get in because of good information and good academics and good thought processes and good, just good rationality. They didn't get in that way, and so they're not going to get out that way. Their whole inner structure is built on and leaning on Christianity. Their marriages, their family identities, their morality, their personal worth, their purpose, their goals in life, their hope of heaven and fear of hell, their standing in the church and the community. So much of it just hangs on this frame. And the ideas sit very nicely and neatly in their mind to them. Their belief works really well. It's like a load-bearing wall. Everything else, leans on this wall, and this wall is solid. And if you were to take this wall out, everything collapses. So to them, it's a nice building. It's a beautiful building. It's very well constructed, and we're saying basically we can push the walls and these beams of your Christian walls, we can push them out. And to them, it's like, well, if you do, it will crumble. It will tremble and it will crumble. And it's sort of like, as well, like rooms in a house that they lock those rooms and they say, don't go in those rooms. Some rooms stay locked in their minds. You can knock all you want, but the latch is on the inside. And if they don't open it up, we're not going to get in. You can give them a question, you can give them a book, you can give them a moral dilemma. You can explain a contradiction to them. You can give them a little story. You can talk about your story. You can share a video from a channel like mine. it's like you're leaving a little light in on the threshold, but the turn of their perspective has to come from them. You can tell them, for example, I'm concerned about why you think hell is a good thing. I'm concerned that your God created this place of torture and that you think that's a good thing. Doesn't that sound like something that's exactly the opposite of what a good father would do to his children? Would a good father torture his children forever? Would any good father do it? And you can ask that stuff, and you think that should be enough to make you think twice. Can you not see the misogyny of your worldview, of your church culture? Can you not see how women are oppressed through this? Can you not see the spiritual abuse? Can you not see biblical slavery? I meant to say this. The pastor, I went to church today, right? This jackass pastor, he's preaching through 2 Peter, the passage where is it 2nd or 1 Peter, talking about, I've got it right here. What was this passage? Either 1st or 2 Peter. First Peter 2:18. Slaves, obey your masters in all things. And this again, this jackass pastor, he's such an arrogant prick. He thinks everything that he says, and I say it not just because of what I saw this morning. He has his own YouTube channel. He's been doing it for years. He's an absolute jerk. And he just loves to make everyone else look in his mind like they're idiots. He is very much the idiot. But he's preaching through 1 Peter about slaves obey your masters. And he literally says like, this is about employers and employees. And he says, the Bible never commands or condones slavery. I'm just like, what Bible you're reading? It's all over the Old Testament. It is not indentured servitude. It talks about you can beat your slaves until they're almost dead. Like, what in the world? What in the world? It's so frustrating. But you share this stuff with them, and you know that they have these polished answers, these lines about God's ways are higher than man's ways, and you can't understand God's red hot holiness and why he hates sin so much. And you can even share your story. You can say, I've been through a lot of spiritual trauma. Can I share with you why I left and why this hurts and why it hurts that you don't care? And all they do is, they'll listen for half a second, and then they have a rehearsed answer. And before you even finish speaking your story and your concerns, their rehearsed answer starts. They weren't listening. They were waiting for you to finish so that they could say what they've already been preparing to say. It shocks me that it is this way, but at the same time, I would like to remind myself, it took us years for this stuff to come into sharp focus for us. We can't impose on them a shorter time frame. It took me 43 years to escape Christianity. 43. Why should it take them 4 or 5? I think we could argue there should be a little bit of a difference because, we didn't have anybody in our faces saying, look, you red flags, there's a problem here. We had to kind of create the red flags ourselves. We had to stumble upon them and find them. And here we are saying very, very boldly, very openly, very clearly, there's red flags all over your book. So that should kind of jumpstart them, you'd hope, but you can only go so far with that. You can only go so far with that. The hard part about it is, again, the loss will be great. Your parents may not talk to you. They may write you off in some ways. You may lose a marriage. And even your own children may not talk to you. We had someone making comments earlier about, their former JW. JWs often lose everything. One of my earliest interviews was on this channel was a guy in New Zealand who said, I haven't talked to my own son in 10 years. He grew up, he got married, he's got a wife, he's got a new baby. I don't see them. They're not allowed to talk to me. That's sad. It's really sad. I'm going to jump over to some comments. And again, if anybody wants to jump in on camera, you're welcome to. If not, I'll just keep going. I've got a few more thoughts to share. Let's see here. It's a tragedy when people, be it friends or family, never leave, can't never truly be free under an illusion of comfort. Yeah, it is. It's very sad. Mark says, I relate to being so slow to see through it, nearly a whole lifetime of religious delusion. Yep. See here, I missed a few comments. Let me go back a little bit further. Exposure to other cultures like science and science and history, bit by bit over time, can weaken the foundation. Yep, absolutely. Education is so important. Pretending mythologies are historically true is obviously ridiculous, but I was fooled by religion until the age of 64. 2 years ago, childhood indoctrination is extremely difficult to overcome. Yeah. Well said. Yeah, it really is. It really is. And C.S. Lewis even is as brilliant as he was like, this is the one true mythology. I think Tolkien was the one that got him to think that through that, along those lines. But even C.S. Lewis could see it, and he still said, this is the one true mythology. It looks like mythology, but it's the one real one. Oh, the nonsense. It's too much. I came back and said thanks to one of Phil's cousins for sharing things. That Shell's husband. I came back and said thanks to one of Phil's cousins for sharing things on Facebook that wound up being part of the start of my deconstruction journey. That's awesome. Very cool. Tony, glad you got out. See here, let me catch up. I wanted to find the truth in high school, and thankfully I was able to find my way out young instead of being old, and then finally finding my way out, wishing I did sooner. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I've been working on a bunch of titles for the live streams and the topics, the monologues I'm working on. And one of the ones that I literally just created is called Deconversion from Christianity in the Sunset Years. And it is one of the hardest things that people often reach out to me about and say they're so devastated that they're like 75 years old and they've just escaped. And like, this is insane. Like, my life feels like it's almost over. And now here we are, deconverting. It's just crazy. Yeah, the mental gymnastics are on another level. Love Dr. Pepper says, even my boss accepts the real me and doesn't tell me what to do with my personal life, which I appreciate. He's definitely more of a friend than a slave master. Yeah. That's awesome. Where are we going? Looks like we got someone in the studio. I'll be with you in just 1 second. Took me 17 years, but thankfully wasn't deep in religion nor truly attached. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier for sure. William's in the group. Thank you so much, William, for being here with us. We haven't seen you in a few days. Appreciate your jumping in. My family knows that I've deconstructed, and now I am sharing with them that I have deconverted. They send me the Christian phrases and verses that they think I somehow missed in my 54 years. Yeah, as if you didn't hear it the first 3,000 times. It's crazy. It's crazy. I've got someone in the studio. I don't see them, so we'll see how this goes. But let me see what Ben has to say. Ben, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Can you hear me, Tim?
Oh, hey, Ben. Yeah, I remember we chatted a week or two ago, didn't we?
Yeah, it was great. I had a great time talking to you. You seem like a very nice guy, and I was happy to get my story out there. I've
Yeah,
been
appreciate
sharing,
that.
I've been sharing it with everyone.
Nice. Well, how do you? This is good question then for you. I don't think we talked about this the first time you were on, but how do you cope with knowing that some of your loved ones will never escape Christianity?
Yeah, so I thought I'd share. I don't necessarily have any loved ones that it's like they're definitely not going to escape Christianity. I know that for a fact. If I do, it'll be like a huge shock. But I do have a step parent who I genuinely love her. She's in many ways despite her religious belief, she's in many other ways one of the most generous people I know. She's the kind of person where, like, if we're at a family event, she'll offer to get everyone their pop if they want that. And she might be like, she's definitely more likely to overfeed than underfeed. Is that good? It might depend on how you look at it, but she's very generous, and I liked her ever since I met her. But but she's kind of what now. When I understand she's my stepmom told me that, yeah, she's a Bible believing Christian. She doesn't just believe her like some of the Bible. She thinks the Bible's the word of God, I understand. And my stepmom didn't say that she believed in hell specifically, but she did say she believes you have to believe in both God and Jesus when I was going through my sort of more progressive Christian or spiritual but not religious phase, I was at, you could say, a family reunion. I was at my dad and stepmom's place, and all my stepmom's family were there. So she was there, and I just told her I was volunteering at the United Church, and she right away then asked me, "What's your favorite Bible verse?" So she was so nice. I didn't want to get in a fight with her or ruin our relationship. So instead of showing that I didn't believe in the Bible or the way she did, I just shared, well, I do like the verse where it says, "Don't repay evil with evil," because I actually do like that idea, even now as someone who doesn't believe in the Bible or like it much at all anymore, or never even really did like it deep down. But
Right.
one thing I do like is Jesus's messages to love your enemies. I That doesn't necessarily mean everyone needs to not be angry at someone or see someone again, but I like the idea of compassion rather than retributive justice. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So
but
how is it when you talk to people? Do they when you talk to your loved ones about your journey, do they have a level of respect for your perspective, or do they just kind of write you off? How do those conversations typically go?
most of my loved ones, so like my mom and stepdad, they haven't been, they've never been very religious. They kind of have, they're really the only way they're different than me is I still like to believe in a Father God, just one, just not any of the religious ones. But well, they believe in a higher power, but I don't know if they necessarily believe in a creator or a man. So but when it comes to what I think matters, we agree on a lot there. So they were happy for me when I think my mom and maybe my stepdad were happy for me when I got out of religion. My mom was actually kind of worried about me when I was in it, but she respected me because she respected my independence. So, mm, yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
Hmm.
But my dad's more one where we don't regularly talk about this stuff. Normally, when I just share what I like to believe, he's happy for me. Really, the main place where we disagree on something I think matters is he once said to me, "I think some people just say they're an atheist because they're lazy. They don't want to be held accountable." And I'm just like, yeah, no, even if someone is not an atheist or a hopeful atheist because they don't want tell us a God telling them what to do with their life, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And in fact, I'd say it's better to be good or to genuine care for others, not because you think God wants you to be. Like, like I know personally, if I like someone at first, but then stop liking them, it's much more of a hard, I feel much angrier about them than if I never liked them at all. So if you're being the best person outwardly, but people find out you actually were faking it because you wanted to please God, that might do a more mental and emotional harm to them than some might think. So
Yeah, I
that's
hear you.
that's a big place where we disagree. I'm just like, no, I do. Even I don't like the idea of living for God or any authority for that matter. For me, God's my comfort, not my authority. And and some people might not like or not really need the idea of even a more comforting God, like it. It helps me, but that doesn't mean it'll help everyone. So
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I would say that for me, I would find it a comfort, but I don't find it a comfort in the sense that I just don't think the evidence is there. So
yeah,
the fake comfort wouldn't come either. If there was a real good reason to believe it, it might comfort me. But if I knew he was also benevolent, but just to believe something just because it's what you're taught, or because you need a safety cushion and your little childhood, the special blanket, the blankets we all took, when you went on a car ride, it was like if it was a long trip, 2-hour trip or somewhere, something, you had to have your special blanket for the car ride. Like that's just what Christianity has become for a lot of people. It's their special blanket. It keeps them
yeah,
feeling cozy, and it's like I
yeah.
get it, but that's not a reason to believe that that your God is there. It's just it's a comfort, and I'd rather live in the truth, even if it feels a little bit harsh, than to live in a comfort that's actually a lie. So,
Yeah, I see.
well, is there anything? I appreciate you jumping in today. Was there anything else on your mind or your heart before we? It looks like we have someone else in the studio, but if you have anything else,
Uh,
feel free to share it.
I'll try to be quick. So so you kind of asked me how do the conversations go with my loved ones. So my dad's kind of more the one who I would. So I also have this step grandma who I love my stepdad, but a lot of his family are sort of maybe way too religious, traditional, and right wing for me to call them loved ones. His
Yeah.
his sis his sister's like, if you just met her and didn't talk about God or religion, you might think she's one of the best people ever. But my stepdad tells me that if you asked her, hey, what about atheists and the other non-Christians? Where are they going to heaven? She'd kind of say, kind of, it's, oh, well, they're not going to heaven. Like, not necessarily that she's happy about it, but just, well, that's the case. And then her husband, my step uncle, he's changed his beliefs a lot, like his specific beliefs. But my stepdad says he thinks he always believed everyone who disagreed with him then was going to hell. But
Hmm.
then my step grandma, my stepdad's mom, is not as extreme when it comes to strict living, but I have to, even when I told her about me going to the Unitarian Fellowship and what I liked about it, she goes to me, well, it takes a lot more than being good to go to heaven. And I'm just like, nah, if there's a heaven, everyone's going there. Either that or our God is evil, or I might have said something like, God doesn't. I basically told her what I like to believe about God. And she then goes to me, well, that's not entirely true. The Bible says, and then I kind of started, was like, I do not believe in the Bible. I think most of it is toxic. And she didn't argue with me. She just kind of smiled at me.
Yeah.
But then, but then there was another time I was talking to her. So personally, I'm not the biggest cusser. I'm not the biggest cusser. The F word's not my every other word, but I do like to use it sometimes to express strong feelings I'm having. And then when I
That's
told my
awesome.
st- Yeah, and then when I told my step grandma about it and I didn't even use the word, I just told her I like to use it, and she goes to me, "You don't swear, do you? I thought you went to church and like a Unitarian church," and she didn't seem to understand that it's a total it has nothing to do with Christianity. So she was all like, she even kind of seemed like she thought my mom should teach me not to use it.
Yeah.
So
It's
one
amazing how
time,
much cursing is like the dividing point. If you curse, you're a bad Christian, or a non-Christian. If you don't curse, you're a good person. It's such a like straight dividing point for so many people. I had that as a kid growing up too. Like, just the good people just don't curse. You just don't do it ever.
yeah.
Hmm.
So then when I was talking to my dad one time when we were driving, I was telling him my problems with my step grandma and how if we saw her at Christmas, I don't know how I'd handle it. And my dad, like, he kind of knew my stepdad when they were kids. He kind of just knows my step grandma a little bit. But he then goes to me, Ben, you've been studying religion more than anyone I know who's not an ordained minister. And has that ever made you happy? And just like, Dad, I have a couple problems. First of all, and he's all like, "Why do you think it's wrong with what you use?" And I'm just like, "Because if I care about someone, I don't want them living their lives in fear of hell or fear of God. And even if I can't find it in my heart to care about them because some of their values, I definitely don't want them scaring other people with that stuff." But then I'm also like, I don't want her trying to tell me what to do, even if she's going to be a Christian. I don't want her trying to impose the Christian spirit on me and tell me that that I can't use the F word even when she's not around. And but then to me, it's also like, what if someone was like really hurting me, and my dad was upset about that, and someone said to him, "You care so much about your son, and has that ever made you happy?" I'd be surprised if his response would be, "Maybe you're right. Maybe I should just not care about it so much." It's like the same way good parents care about their kids, I care about people who are living their lives in fear of hell or fear of God. So, yeah, So yeah, that's a place where even the next evening when I was at work, if you'd have saw me then, you'd have been able to tell something was making me mad. I just couldn't hide it. There was a little guy who came up and asked me if I was okay. He was nice. I just said yes, and no one was a jerk to me about it. But but lately my dad's kind of been with, even when we disagree on things, he's been respecting my decisions and my autonomy, and he's been a lot more respectful to me lately. So,
That's awesome.
but
That's awesome.
yeah,
Well, Ben, I
but
appreciate you jumping in. It's so good to hear you again.
yeah,
I'm going to be trying to do a bunch more live streams in the next week or two, so please keep an eye out for any of the topics that you can relate to. I'd love to hear your thoughts again, but thank you so much for jumping in tonight.
yeah, it was great.
All right, talk to you later, Ben. Thank you so much, and don't forget to say a good curse word before your bedtime. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Have a great night. Thanks again, Ben. Thank you so much, Ben, for jumping in. And we got Noelle and Shell. So we'll go to Noelle next. And Noelle, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Good to see you. How's it going?
It's good to see you too. I am at the beginning of a work week where I do not have my kids.
Okay.
Which is okay with me. Like, they're with their dad. They kept me super busy for the last 7 days. So, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, all right, maybe this upcoming week I might get some stuff done.
I know the feeling all too well.
Oh, the laundry piles are high, like the trash is overflowing, the dishes, but the refrigerator and freezer are completely empty. And I know that they're going to have total expectation when I see them next Friday that everything is filled.
I'm the opposite. I have a fridge. It's a problem. I have a fridge full of leftovers, but when they're not here, I try to fast. So I'm like torn. I'm like, I don't want to waste food, but I also want to be fasting for 2 or 3 days and like not eating anything. So like, if you do the fast that you intend to do, then you wasted food. It's like, so I'm like, all right, well, eat a little bit for a day or two and then fast, and like kind of meet in the middle somewhere. But I know the feeling. But well, I know you've probably got some things to share about how you cope with just knowing that some of your loved ones aren't going to leave Christianity, and I know you shared some of it before with the comments, but fill us in. What's it been like?
It's been an odd conundrum. Like, so there's this part of me that, having leaving Christianity, embraced the atheist mindset that says this: we get one life. It's all we got. As many years as we have while our hearts are beating and lungs will be, functioning and air is in our breath. And then I have no idea what happens. I can predict it. I think anybody who decides that they know what's going to happen is just like guessing, at most. And then my loved ones, my parents, my dad's a pastor, my mom is a pastor's wife. I have a grandma, I have like brothers, and these people are looking at me like, we have this amount of time to save her. It's like, should we intensely go in there and just like tell her all about hell and scare the shit out of her? It's an odd thing to live your life this way, to love these people and say, my worldview is so different from yours. I just want to know everything about you and love you completely for the little bit of time I have with you. And they're looking at it like, none of this time actually matters unless you confess all and we can have eternity together. It's just, to be honest, my perspective has been to pull away from all of them. Like, full stop. I can't. I don't know how. I don't know how. I have tried so hard to listen and understand. I feel like there's just so many things, so many ideas that I can't accept. But they're pretty much demanding that are truths.
Yeah.
To them. So how do we move forward? Each day we wake up in the morning, we have 24 hours, we need food, we need sleep, we have to, reach out to who we reach out to. We have to pay our bills, like all this stuff. And I have not been able to have the capacity to let these people in my life, because it feels like they're wasting my time. They're wasting their own time.
It reminds me of trying to think of a good example, but at a certain point, people are like, they're stuck in quicksand, and you're kind of like, I was stuck in quicksand too, and I was able to get out, and I have this stick that I can send over your way where you can pull, and you just feel like you want to scream, like, grab the stick and get out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, there is no problem. I am not in danger. I'm not sinking. I'm fine. And literally it gets to a point where you have to say, I can't do anything else but try. Like, it's parallel to what we used to say as Christians. Like, you're not responsible to save somebody. You're responsible to be faithful. Be faithful to share the gospel. Let God and the Holy Spirit take over at that point. You can't rescue somebody. You're not the savior. He is, but you are the one that you're the messenger. Plant the seeds, and then just hands off. Like, God, don't feel guilty, but you should feel guilty if you don't plant the seeds. But once you've done your best, walk away. And you almost have to take a similar perspective of like, I guess I'm going to have to do my best to tell them, but if they won't listen, that's that. And it's heartbreaking, because you're literally like, you're in quicksand, and your time is shrinking, and we could have so much of a better life and so much about a better relationship. And they just, what breaks my heart, I think, in this is in the situations that we're talking about, they take it very seriously that the Bible says that you must love Jesus more than anyone else, more than, mothers, fathers, spouses, children. If you don't love him more than anybody else, you cannot be his disciple. And they live that way. They mean it, and they live that way. And it's just like, can you not see you are in love with the mythological, literary character instead of the flesh and blood right in front of you, and they can't see it. Just sad.
I mean, it's so sad, because they think that they're going to spend the rest of their lives trying to save us, save me. And I am trying to spend the rest of my life loving them and knowing them, in a better place. So both of us are desperate. Both of us are just like, where is common ground here? Is there any common ground here? And I don't want that common ground to be surface shit. I really don't. Like, I don't want it to be like, remember that time, blah, blah, blah. Like, we pelted dad with raw eggs on Easter. It was like, that was very fun. I wish I thought more about my dad. I wish, like, I knew that, like, we actually had a conversation in those years that I could hold on to, something that where I heard him telling me something, and he was also listening to me. Like, I would give anything, and I was born in 1979. We're in 2026. I haven't spoken to my dad since 2019. He doesn't know what to say. I don't know what to say. He's a Baptist pastor. The last time I saw him, he basically, it was like a big round table with my grandma's birthday, his mother's birthday. And he pointed to the sky and said, I don't care what happens. I know where I'm going. And I didn't know how to have a conversation, with somebody who feels like they're on their way and looks at me as though you're on your way to hell. Like, what's left to say? What conversation could possibly be had where both people are respectfully telling each other how we feel?
Yeah. I was thinking something similar this morning when I was in church with this group, that even though it wasn't necessarily a sermon as strongly about the gospel and about heaven or hell, there's just the implication that we all have in these fundamentalist churches that like we're the only ones with the right message, and everyone else, like we're the salt of the earth. I mean, I had that feeling, like it's like 99% white people, and it's just like this white nationalist perspective of like we're the salt of the earth, we're the good people, and everyone else that's not among us and that's not a believer like us, they're basically all the bad people and they're all the deceived people. And it's just this little teeny club, and they can't even see that compared to even historical Christianity, a lot of them are in the minority, even compared to how Christianity evolved, but let alone just even in the whole world. Like there's a lot of good people of different faiths and of no faith, and the exclusivity is just so disturbing. But that's what's, I think, so hard for me about some of these religions, and especially evangelical Christianity, is it's not just a faith. It's not just, well, this is what I want to believe. This is the only thing that you can possibly believe and be good and be right, and everything else is basically damnable, and you're going to go to hell for it, for being different. And it's just, there is no way to really have a conversation when people are that stuck. It's so sad. It's so sad. And you realize too that you don't hear this too much, but it's implied. You hear occasionally someone will come right out and say it. If Christianity is not true and Jesus isn't real, I don't see a reason to even live. Like, I don't even want to live if this is not real. And you're like, really? Like, if this is mythology and it's irrelevant to your life, and you've had a whole other life that you could have lived, and now you're free from the deception, you'd rather not know that? You'd rather not have your life back? Like, nope, I don't want to live if this isn't real. Wow, this thing has done a number on you so badly. It's so hard.
So that's the, when I ask myself, how does this thing, this faith, this system, this God capture so many people? It makes us, at a time, feel like we're involved, we're important, we're needed, all these things that just weave in the simplest of ways, and tell us that God is holy, whatever that means, even though he kills people and does all this stuff that's not that holy, but he's God, so it's fine. The rest of us are taught we're supposed to fall in line, let the chips fall where they may. Other people, other systems of government, other innocent women, teenagers, babies, they're, whatever happens, don't worry about them because God has it. God's in control. God is navigating all of it. God is omniscient. And all these people who died horrifically would have rejected him anyways. All these things that I look back at, and I think about when I used to go to bed at night, and as a kid, a teenager, a young adult, I would grab my stuffed animal, and my pillow and be like, I'm good with you, God, right? and basically hoped that he would glue all of those questions shut. Because I couldn't answer them, and I definitely couldn't answer them for anybody else. So the only option I had was to turn a blind eye and say, your ways are higher than my ways. You know more than I do. You love, and you are love. I didn't know, like I was like, what were we supposed to do, and like escaping all of that. It's weird because when you escape it, it's like a prisoner who's just like, I have the key, I'm out, I'm running, blah, blah, blah. And I live in the woods now because I don't know what to do. And you hear, I mean, this might be a weird analogy, but you hear somebody coming by and saying, if you want food or a drink or friends, or a coat, whatever you need, just like basically you could come back into the fold. But I couldn't do it. I would rather freeze to death or starve to death than live under the umbrella of bullshit. Somebody else's bullshit where they could control me and use me as some sort of pawn in their game.
Yeah. It's like that expression, the unexamined life is not worth living. And it really is true. Once you start to examine it and you say, there's no way I can go back. It breaks your heart to think these people truly are not willing to look at the very basic questions of simply, is this really true? And they want the comfortable lie as opposed to the actual truth. And I think what's hard about it too is that they're dealing with the issue of the terror of, what if you're right? What if atheism is accurate? What if nihilism is accurate? There's a terror involved in that for them, but to them that's theoretical and they can push it away. But for us, the outcome is very real, which is loneliness. Mm-hmm. We end up extremely lonely, and that's not theoretical. That's absolutely what we, that's what we live. That's our daily life. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I just making sure we didn't have a troll. Okay, yeah, but like we're living in this loneliness, and I mean, what were the first things that you did when you realized that you were going to be like, I'm going to really be alone in this journey? Like, what were some of the things that got you through the darkest part of it?
I blocked a lot of people on social media.
Yeah, that's
I went ahead. Yeah, and I said, I love this person, but what they are trying to say to me now, the ways they're trying to like infiltrate my world. Hey, Noelle, do you want to go for a walk at the park? Let's have a cup of coffee. I was just like, there was a moment that I said, I know what you're trying to say to me and do to me. I've been through this so many times, and I'm done. I'm just done. So that was definitely a moment for me. And there was definitely a moment for me that I created a narrative in my mind where when people, loved ones, my mom, my dad, my grandma might approach me and say, how could you do this? Like, why don't you believe this? They used words like feminazi and heretic and blah, blah, blah. And I was, in my mind, I'm like, all right, I have a response to that. I have an ability to say, what do you mean by that, Dad? Like, what is a feminazi? And just like kind of put them on their heels, make them have to explain themselves. Usually that's enough. Once they have to explain themselves, they're like, I'm backtracking, a little bit, because that's what the truth typically does to people. But
that's rude that they would do that to you. Those are horrific names.
Oh, Tim, I grew up with that.
I mean, it's like the Trump. It's normalized now with the Trump era, but it's just sad that they would do that. And it's amazing to me the way that just the name calling is on steroids with these groups, Christian groups and the MAGA group. Everybody is they want all these names to just put everybody in their quick buckets and write everybody off that's in that bucket. It's so sad.
So if they have all these buckets out and they toss people into those buckets with their comments, oh, you said this, so you're, some sort of MAGA terrorist or deranged Trump serum, all that stuff, then they put you back on your heels. So you feel like you have to prove yourself somehow. And it's like, wait a minute, like, are you actually trying to drain me of energy? Defending myself to who? People who, you who aren't listening to me, who don't know me, who don't care about me. I feel like that's the big picture. The big picture is if we can get them, if we can get her, to spend all this time and energy defending herself, then she won't have the time and energy to speak some truth, and share what she already knows, and just to talk about the stuff that's on her mind in a non, even confrontational way. So it's like, yeah, I am a 46-year-old woman, and I grew up in a super Southern Baptist home. My dad was a pastor, and my mom was the perfect wife. I went to Bible college. Like, I read the Bible back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, just like you did. And so when I find myself in the crosshairs of people who tell me that I haven't done my homework and that I have no experience, it's just when their first word is, let's just throw you into a bucket, after all that life experience, I'm like, I don't know even what to say. I don't know where to go from here. Obviously, I'm not going to make a difference or have any words that the person I'm talking to might actually even respect. So,
yeah. And what's hard too is you're realizing too that you've thought that you were in a better spot this whole time, and you realize like this is. It feels new to you. It's like, oh, now our relationship's shifting to this toxic thing. But you're like, actually, we've always been in this relationship. I just didn't know it until now. And that's what hurts too, is like, so you go back to your old memories. Like, I was okay to you because I jumped through your hoops for so long. And that hurts too.
Exactly. And so you look at the past and go, that really wasn't right, and A, B, C, 1, 2, 3 ways. But when you identify them for yourself and you're like, all right, I'm seeing some truth here, seeing some clarity. I mean, I was being manipulated, gaslit, like all these things that they were attempting to control me. And now that I'm in a different spot, how do I speak against that? When they're still trying to use the same exact tools to gaslight me and manipulate me and control me. I don't know. I mean, the only way I've really been able to manage it is to cut ties. I wish, that I had a relationship with my mom. I think that she had me when she was young. I have an identical twin sister named Nicole, and I haven't spoken to her for years. She married a guy who became a pastor, and over the years, she tried to teach. I had to throw those up, like teach us who we were supposed to be for the purpose of God and Jesus. And we were taught that our bodies were a stumbling block. We were told to dress modestly and be submissive. And as the years went on, he became more and more like abusive. And I will say, like, he was mean. You know, he wore the pastor's tie and was not afraid to like slam us up against walls and tell us like we needed to obey, and that we were lazy and disrespectful and all these words, you know, that like he could not validate any of, you know, his accusations, but he felt like because he was the pastor that was all that mattered.
That's insane. The level of abuse. Oh, it's painful to hear. Well, I know we're obviously dealing with it on a very negative level, but we're also trying to just be very honest with it. We're trying to not, you know, pretend that it's something that it isn't. But what can I say except I hope for better days ahead. And I hope that in the meantime, knowing that the better days may either not come or may not come for a long time, I really hope that, you know, that people like you and like me and like anyone else in the community that can relate, that we can say, you know what, it sucks like crazy. And at this point, what can you do except rebuild a new community, rebuild a new family, rebuild a new circle of friends who can build you up? Not that we want to give up on our loved ones, but until they're ready, they're not ready. It's like we say, you know, until you see it, you can't see it. Until they see it, they can't see it. And some of them may not see it for a while. And it's just heartbreaking. I hate stories like that because now someone like you not only have the current pain, but you have the past pain of the religious trauma of growing up in it. So it's like a double whammy, like all the pain from the past, but it's like you're finally trying to heal from it. And they're just kind of making it almost like a secondary, like we said earlier, like an aftershock. Like there's those two different levels at least. And it's really hard. I wish that there were some kind of answers, but I know there's not. And I don't want to make it seem like there's easy answers. I know that sometimes it's easy in our attempts to look at these topics to try to find some kind of, you know, nice, cozy package to wrap it up in and say, well, it'll be okay if we just think of it this way. But it's like, it won't be. It won't be okay. But the thing that, you know, we have to do at that point is say, all right, well, knowing that it won't be okay, what can we do? And at least to say, well, the community can make a difference. And I really do hope that we can wrap our arms around each other as a community and just say, you know, we can't go through this alone. It just hurts too much. But
I had one more question for you.
Sure.
That I hope maybe you can maybe relate to me on, or like go another path. But I make a lot of my relationship decisions with anyone in my life, I guess. I wanted to say parents or kids, grandparents, loved ones. I am motivated by a lot of guilt. That I do not want to be somebody who hurts them or lets them down. And at the same time, there's a part of me that feels like that is so phony because I'm not actually saying all the things I wish I said. You know, I wish I could say about the God they believe in or the world that we live in that I see that maybe they're not seeing. I struggle with towing the line between I love this person, I want a true relationship with them, and I'm going to tell them everything, and I love them so much, and so I'm going to protect them, you know, from my innermost thoughts that might make their life more difficult or for them to feel like I'm judging them.
You mean you're talking about your like your parents and your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I would say for everybody, and I don't want to say like be prescribing what you should do. I think for me, sort of related to the comment I put in the text earlier of the comments here. I feel like until people are just ready, that there's nothing you can do. I mean, like, I remember this story I shared about Susan, my friend from kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
She shared a little bit with me, and I simply said, I obviously disagree with your atheism. And 10 years later, I was coming back saying, I can't believe I didn't see it. But she wasn't rude to me. Unfortunately, I wasn't rude to her. We just kind of like shook hands and said, thanks for sharing. But it's really hard because you do want to share more. As a Christian, of course, you want to be like, you need to believe in Jesus. There's so much at stake here. My God, come on. You see you're a sinner in need of a savior, and it's so easy. Just believe it. Let's get this done. You're so close to salvation, into heaven. And then from our side, it's like you're so close to just doing just the bare bones basics investigation to see past the discrepancies,
Mm-hmm.
but you won't do even a little bit. Like, it's like everybody won't do it a little bit. And I think what's I guess maybe pardon the pun, but it's a saving grace, is I think a lot of us carry over from our time in Christianity the need to be a rescuer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if this is going to answer your question, but just to say what's coming to mind. I think a lot of us feel the need to be a rescuer. It's like a reflex. We were used to that pressure of evangelism, that compulsion almost, where we've had an internal job title description change where we used to be a soul winner, a soul saver, and now we're the rescuers of the believers. We're the people that rescue Christians. We used to be Christians that rescue. Now we're rescuing Christians. But our nervous system is driving us in a way that's almost identical. And when any of us, when we're Christians or whether we're atheists, when we believe that other people around us are doing something that's harmful, our peace depends on getting them out,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and it's like a second ministry. Like we were in ministry before, and now our second ministry is deconverted people is to help people recover. And like every conversation before was, let's turn everything to Christ. And now every conversation now becomes, let's turn towards why we should leave Christianity. And it's like a mission field in reverse. And it drained the life out of us, arguably, when we were Christians. And I think it's still doing the same thing as draining us. The dinner table should not be a debate stage. And, our phone should not be like a little altar of arguments. Our mind should not be constantly preparing responses to conversations that may or may not ever happen. And we have this urge to rescue people and to be like a savior complex.
Mm-hmm.
And, as Christians, we'd of course say, no, the complex is we have a savior complex, but it's Jesus, it's a savior, not me. But it really was. It was a human savior complex. But I think we tend to still fall into it as atheists. We have a savior complex. And I don't mean that to be patronizing to anybody. Just we all have it. And I think there's that guilt in my mind of like, well, what if I don't share it well enough? What if I don't tell them in a good enough way how the parallels between Homer's Odyssey and the Gospels, isn't that on me? And what if I did a better job? I could have helped them escape, and damn it, I didn't do a good job. It's like, that's the same old evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're at a certain point, like I love, there's some quote, I'm not going to quote it, but there's some quote I heard years ago as a teenager. I think it was Abraham Lincoln or something, but somebody said something like, when you're a kid, you're not really responsible for the facade of your face, like whether you smile or grimace. That's kind of in many ways your parents, and your life experiences. But the quote, and I'm sorry, I'm not even going to quote it, I'd botch it so badly, but the quote was basically something like, by the time you're a young adult, like in your 20s, you're responsible for the way your face looks. If you're going to choose joy and love and a smile versus a grimace and a nastiness, a scowl, like you're responsible at a certain point for what your face looks like. And at a certain point, you have to say, like, these people are adults. They're responsible for whether or not they believe, whether or not they're willing to look seriously at rationality. And if they just won't, they just won't, And it's heartbreaking, but I feel like at a certain point, I hate to use the phrase "wash my hands of them" because you don't want to write people off. But it's like, what can you do? What can you do except just wish? Yeah. I don't know. I probably didn't answer your question, but that's just
No, you did. But in my mind, I feel like I don't want to wash my hands of these people, but I also know that I need to let them go. I just need to let them go. And they have already probably let me go, in a way, to a God that doesn't exist, a hell that they kind of think I deserve. And I can't give any more of my time, energy, stress, anxiety over to what they think about me. I have one life to live. I'm 46 years in. I have a ton of regrets. I sometimes look back and I'm like, I can't even think about it. Like the stuff I said and I did. Like, I don't want to. I don't want to waste another minute feeling like shit about the things that probably made other people feel like shit about. And I realize I have kids. I have my kids. They're mine. And they look at me and they see me as a mom. And I look at my future and I say, all right, how can I look at tomorrow, 3 months, 6 months ahead and do everything I could for them? And I'm hoping that an outlier of that means that I might be able to help other people too, in my circle, to say, life doesn't have to be this hard. We don't have to try to earn everything for an afterlife that doesn't exist. And just be. Learning how to just be in the day, the 24 hours. That's something Christianity does not teach you how to do. You thrive in the world of, the future, crowns in heaven. Your rewards are blah, 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 submit everything, die to yourself. All these things that tell you you're supposed to kind of feel like shit, for today. And maybe you might not feel like such shit in the next couple of days or tomorrow or whatever. So accept that. I think leaving Christianity meant that I no longer accept that. And the people in my life who are trying to convince me that I should, they have no influence on me anymore. They don't matter to me anymore in a way that their opinion would. But I just wish, there's this greedy, part of me that wishes that I could just relate to them on a human level and spend a little bit of time with them before that's all the time we have. Yeah.
I think it's a good point too, though, to say that with that, that's why we try so hard, because this isn't an equivocal issue. They're literally stealing. They've stolen our lives, and we've tried to get ours back, but they're stealing. This mind virus is stealing the lives of our loved ones, and we're basically losing our families over this. And it's so heartbreaking. And to say, well, I occasionally get a comment or something saying, why don't you just, if you don't believe in Jesus, fine, just walk away. Just walk away. Why do you have to have a YouTube channel about it? I'm like it's stealing people's lives. Are people not worth, when you're a Christian, isn't it worth it to save someone's soul from hell? Well, of course, that's why I evangelize. Well, I don't believe in hell, but isn't it worth it to save someone's life from mythology? And we would want everybody else to be like, oh, I hope those Muslims find the truth. I hope those Buddhists find the truth. Isn't finding the truth isn't that a worthwhile life? Isn't that a beautiful life, to help people get to the truth? And I'm hopeful that it makes a difference. I feel like, and you know what? Some days I feel like it makes a very little difference. We're just kind of a little bit of an echo chamber amongst ourselves. But every once in a while, somebody comes along on my little teeny channel. My channel's not that big. And someone comes along to my little channel and says, Tim, you are the direct reason that I left Christianity. So I think, you know what? We are making a difference, and it isn't just my channel. It's my channel in the sense that I host it, but it's people's stories. It's all of us as a community. We as a community are helping each other escape. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Real quick, speaking of YouTube channels, I just want to mention, Becca just came into the comments. I'm going to put her YouTube channel in the comments. Becca Yoli did a interview with me a while ago. She's got a YouTube channel called Faith Exposed. She's doing great work. She's just doing awesome work there. Great content. Please do support her. Go subscribe to her. Like literally, just take a break, switch tabs, leave this tab open a new tab, and go to Becca's channel, Faith Exposed, and subscribe to her, please. She's doing awesome work, and we want to support her. So, thanks, Becca, for being here. We'll get to your comment in a minute. But, well, Noelle, I know we've chatted for a while. Was there anything else on your heart to share tonight?
Not really. I just kind of wanted to point out one last thing. Like, as atheists, agnostics, whatever, deconverted, deconstructed, whatever, we look at the world and we go, all right, this is how much time we have, to decide how much love and friendship and pleasure and, satisfaction we're going to get in this short amount of time that we have. And we better do it, while we can. Christians are looking at it from the standpoint of none of this actually matters. We're supposed to be sacrificial. There must be pain and torture and no pleasure and, all these things. And I think that's like the big, huge difference, because Christians are saying we need to live a life of suffering and piety. Then we'll earn our way to God. And then atheists are looking at it and going, you have one life to live. You should probably do everything that you can every day to be happy with every single day that you have. And hopefully that means giving yourselves, to the poor or whoever might need something, or to, if somebody gives you like a free hoagie, eat that hoagie, and say, I want the Wawa with the tomatoes and also, the extra mayo. Like all these things that we've been told are hedonistic and are maybe not okay for us to live. It changes everything. I think that for me, it's made me a better person to live in the moment, not just for myself, because when I live for myself, I can also see other people and how they're trying to live too, and it's just, to me, there's so much healing, and just being honest with ourselves. And I feel like my life of Christianity was nothing but lies. And letting go of that, that's when I really started to live, I would say.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And yeah, it's painful to talk about it. It's painful to live it. But in the reality of it, it's the start. I mean, it's really this start of leaving Plato's cave. It's leaving the blindness, and it's basically leaving an abusive worldview marriage. It's leaving an abusive marriage. It's saying I have been duped this whole time to thinking that this is so wonderful, and it's so narcissistic, and it's so sadistic, and it's so psychopathic. And it's a beautiful thing to wake up and say, I've been deceived. I've lost a lot of time, but from this point forward, I am going to be in charge. I'm going to be taking the reins. I'm not going to hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully never let anything deceive me this much ever again. Hopefully I stay in the truth a lot more than ever before. But it's good stuff. I definitely appreciate you sharing your story. Well, is there anything else you wanted to share? And then we'll go to Shell next.
Oh, that's it. I am super looking forward to Shell.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Noah. We'll definitely keep an eye out for the other topics this week. We'll hopefully see you again at some point. But thank you so much for sharing. Love to have you on the channel. And we're definitely looking forward to your interview at some point. We got to get you on for the full story.
I'll be around.
Thanks, Joel. Thank you so much, Joel, for jumping in here. And again, if anyone can support Becca's channel by subscribing there, hitting the bell for her when her videos come out. She has. Let's look into her recent videos include why it's so hard to question your beliefs, meaningless miracles, is Jesus the source of all goodness, why leaving Christianity can feel like betrayal. I mean, good topics that are near and dear to my heart too. So please check out her great stuff. I'm going to bring Shell on the stage now, and Shell is just audio only. But Shell, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Hey,
Thanks for your patience. Appreciate you being here. And how you doing tonight?
doing okay. I think my voice is coming back slightly, so that's good. I'm like still constantly eating cough drops though, so hopefully I don't cough in your guys' ears. Right.
Well, what is it? A lot of hot tea and honey covers a multitude of sins. But we're so glad you're here. Before your voice does give out, how do you cope with knowing that some of your loved ones will never escape Christianity?
So, like my family, it's such a weird amalgamation, right? My biggest issue, I think, is not with the family members that I already, I don't know, that I already feel like they're living kind of a superficial or like performative or shallow, self-absorbed kind of life. Like if that's the type of person they are and they're in Christianity, you know, like they're already, you know, being a fake person, you know, that doesn't bother me so much, I guess. You know what I mean? But it's when I have loved ones that are like really good people, you know what I mean? Really kind, loving people, great people, and yet they're ensnared by it. And so those relationships, that's what tends to bother me the most. The people that like are such good people that I wish, like, can I just bring you to the dark side? We have cookies, like, you know what I mean? So like something that's just really been bothering me lately, not a loved one, right? But like I really looked up to this person my entire life. My fifth grade teacher, he was an awesome person. One of the first people to like see my ADHD not as like, you know, just a complete deal breaker to me participating in class. And I wasn't sat off in a corner in his room. I wasn't constantly, you know, punished in his room or anything like that. So I really looked up to this guy like my whole life, right? And he's one of the big reasons I wanted to become a teacher. Well, now he's the principal of my kids' school. And my mom, oddly enough, so my mom lives like right down the street from this little church, right? And she went to go visit one weekend and he was preaching there, like as a guest, you know, like as a guest pastor or whatever, because his dad is usually the pastor of the church. And, you know, I was a little curious and looked up about the church, and he's an elder in the church. It says on the site. And then it says 6 day, they believe in a 6 day literal creation. And it's just like, oh man, don't meet your heroes kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I've looked up to this guy my whole life, and he was just such a great person. And then come to find out, you know, that's what he believes. And not only that, but now this is the person who's like in charge of like educating my child, you know, and it just bums me out so bad. I just wish I could be like, do you really believe it? Do you really like, I don't know. That's what bums me out, is when people can be really good people and still just be kind of ensnared by that. I think a lot of people don't realize just the overall societal harm that Christianity is doing with especially politics, just the white Christian nationalist movement. It's like there's a lot of decent people, good people who maybe don't have the most fundamentalist faiths, or maybe don't have the most harmful ideologies or whatever, but they all jump on this bandwagon supporting this terrible person because of their beliefs, you know, because they're maybe more moderate, but it more closely aligns with that political party than like the liberal, you know, the liberal ideology or whatever. so it just bothers me that I know good people are, it's so hard to rectify that for me. And like my grandma too, she is sweet as pie. She's never really like studied the Bible very closely or anything like that. Her faith is more of like a spiritual for herself kind of faith. But yet she is like, I blame like social media and stuff, because my grandma, you know, she's getting older. She's not able to see, like, to understand when she's seeing like fake stuff, you know? And so she just gobbles it down and thinks this stuff is all real, like from Fox News and stuff like this. And it's like, if she didn't have that Christian rhetoric in the back of her head, and that fear that like there's like these people are like that like atheists or agnostic people or whatever, or liberal people are just the devil. Like, if she didn't have that in the back of her head, and that they're like spiritually lost or whatever, like she wouldn't be able to be controlled like that. And I think my biggest thing is not necessarily when it's like, I'm not upset if somebody has it as an individual faith as much. It does bum me out. But I'm more upset about the thought of, how is this going to impact our nation on a societal level, that kind of thing. That's what I'm most worried about right now, I guess. And so to just see people, really good people, I think, falling for some really stupid things. That's just, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean about it just being such an issue of like where you just feel like they can't. My voice is going too. Can't you see it? Like, can we not have a heart to heart about this? Can we not do a like, come let us reason together moment? Can we have a come to Jesus moment here about Jesus? And it's just like, come on. Like, I mean, honestly, I know I harp on this, and this is one of the more stupid topics, but like, come on, you believe in a God that wants to cut off the end of little boys' penises.
Okay.
Like, seriously.
Like, if they really sat down and thought it out, and like could honestly think about it. But yeah, those defense mechanisms to protect yourself, because you're taught, you know, if you don't believe, you're going to hell's a scary place. It's like you automatically shut that down. You don't want to be swayed and wind up being ensnared and that kind of thing. I think so it's like people cannot come to an honest like conversation about things. And it's not that they're never going to be ready, I think. So like, I do think it's worth it to tell people about things, not shove anything down their throat, of course, but like bring up little points here and there, and just kind of leave it like drop a little seed, you know, whatever in the conversation. Yep. Planting seeds.
Exactly. Hopefully they're not the rocky ground.
I mean, hey, you know what? That religion was developed over thousands of years, and the parts that didn't work were redacted and taken out. The parts that were manipulative and worked were kept. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think we, even as atheists, we can still kind of learn from some of the tactics, the strategies there, you know, because man, it is, it's like evolved over time to be more and more and more manipulative. I feel like just the even modern Christianity, you know, when I feel like, well, never mind. I'm not going to say that. I won't go down that rabbit trail. But yeah, my whole point is just like, whenever they're really like sweet, kind people, intelligent people, like my aunt, she is so smart, and she's very liberal, you know, like in the Women's March and all of that for, you know, rights to reproductive health and all of this. But you know, she's going to a church. Well, she started going to a Methodist church because she's like, well, you know, they're more liberal. But then what happens is like, I feel like people realize there's some sort of cognitive dissonance or something in the more liberal churches, that they're not really being intellectually honest about the text.
Yeah.
And when that just doesn't sit right with you, you're liable to be funneled or whittled down into a more fundamentalist perspective. So I don't even think necessarily that liberal churches are safe. It's like the saying, the lie which is closest to the truth is the most dangerous, that sort of thing. So like, I think trying to paint Christianity, trying to keep it in some sort of liberal form and trying to paint it as, it can be a positive thing. See, like if we just don't pay attention to all the patriarchal, the problematic, the whatever, what have you, it can be beneficial to society. Like I war with that myself, honestly. I do, because I think, not that I would ever want to go back to church, not that I ever believe any of it all anymore, but I just like to think about the societal impact of potentially, if we're going to put something up against white Christian nationalism, I don't think people are going to go straight from, if they do leave white Christian nationalism, I don't think they're going to go straight to atheism or straight to, like, it might be the easier way out to go that path. You know what I mean? Like, it might wind up being a bigger constituency of people, a more cohesive way to kind of get us away from this is what I'm, I guess, thinking. So that's the only like benefit I could see to a more liberal form of Christianity. But then, like I said, it can just be weaponized and brought right back, if not in the same generation, within the next generation. As soon as somebody goes, wait, this doesn't make sense, and starts going down that path of more and more fundamentalist beliefs to try to rectify the issues. Because I know that's what I did. My mom started out, well, and my mom did too. My mom started out Catholic, and then she went to Baptist. So that's a leap towards fundamentalism, I'd argue. And then I went to like straight up fundamentalist, because we were really concerned about issues in the text. And when the fundamentalist people who have every single question whittled out and all of the answers figured out had answers to our questions, that's where we went, I guess. Anyway, I'm getting off on that rabbit trail, but it just bothers me because my aunt, she's very, very intelligent. I love my aunt, and she's a very good person, very like, she's like a philanthropist, I think. She's just a good person who cares a lot about society and about politics. And I'm like, I wish you could leave the Christian beliefs behind, because even if you don't personally take part in the problematic aspects of that religion, you're giving your time, your energy, your money, your voice, just the fact that you are in that church and you're a good person, you're kind of lending your face to that church. You know what I mean? Like, people see you as an agent of, or may see you as an agent of that church, and then think, oh, maybe there's something good about that church. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So it bothers me that that she's still in that.
Do you feel hopeless at times about it all?
Do I feel hopeless? I mean, I think like Jane Goodall said, the greatest danger to our future is apathy. And I think a lot of people stay in Christianity because it's comfortable, and especially in the young earth creationist circles, they don't think Earth is going to be around long enough for climate issues and all of that to matter. I think too, if people don't start to realize that connecting with other people from other cultures and other religions and building bridges and creating community that has creating a diverse community, if people don't realize that that's important, even though it can be hard and scary to reach out to people who are outside of your realm, that's an uncomfortable thing, and it takes time and it takes effort. If people don't realize that, we're just going to keep getting tricked by the same type of people who want to, like demagogues, who want to make us scared of the other, the outsider, the the immigrant, the foreigner, whatever, Muslim. Like when you told me don't go look up, what's his name? I don't even want to say his name because I don't want anybody else going to look him up and getting funneled down that. But DP, I'll just use the initials. Whenever you told me not to go look him up, of course, Tim, of course, because I was told not to look up things in Christianity. Of course, first thing I did was go look him up. And his main thing is fear mongering about people from other cultures and other religions, and fear of feminism, right? And it's like, if we don't, the problem is religion creates this barrier there where you are afraid to reach out outside of that bubble, outside of that circle, right? And if we don't have people continually doing that and making that a priority to build those bridges, we're just gonna keep on with our tribalistic, our natural evolutionary, like it's ingrained in us through evolution, right? Sameness equals safety. Familiarity equals safety. My community equals safety. I don't want to be ostracized from my community by thinking differently. But if we made it a priority as a society for all of us to engage with people who are different from us, and did not make it a deal breaker, did not make that something that would make you ostracized for your community, I think we would have a lot better outcomes. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And it's sad to see how much our current administration is fighting against diversity and equity and inclusivity. It's like we're going the wrong direction as fast as we can. Yeah, we're going the wrong direction as fast as we can. And I feel like I asked the question about hopelessness because I feel like at times I feel hopeless about it, and I feel like it's not just that I felt it. It's like I mean, literally this week my divorce decree came through. Like literally, it's like it's directly impacted and ruined my life, and it's like, wow, like this is so crazy what this stuff does, and you feel very hopeless about it all. And I feel like in some ways, it's like you almost have to. How should I put it? There's a live stream I've got coming up. I had it scheduled and I kicked it down the road a little bit because I want to think about it. But there's a live stream I've got called something like "Give Yourself Permission to Scream."
Yeah.
And I think I wanted some more time to think about it, but I think
it's frustrating. It's so like frustrating.
You got to give yourself permission at some point to scream because this feels just so backwards and so upside down and so wrong. It's like it's so obviously wrong. And they're so obviously choosing the most toxic thing in the room. It's like Cinderella with the poison apple, but it's like you saw the wicked witch, the wicked stepmother, or whatever. You saw the wicked lady put the poison in the apple. You saw her transform from a beautiful whatever to a witch. Like you saw the whole thing. It's poison, and you still want it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Are you not better than this? And it's like, no, we're not. We really want this apple. We want to die. I'm like,
I think the saddest thing is people are always going to choose, for the most part, what's most comfortable and safe and easy, because we all live busy lives, and if we can have that easily prepackaged worldview, or if we can have that neat and easy and all of the answers to our existential questions, it's very hard to not be apathetic and just choose that easy out. It's an intellectual laziness, but not just laziness. We live in such a fast-paced, and I think it's a result of the extremely fast-paced and high consumption world that we live in, where we're just constantly consuming content, or we're constantly working, have all of these things on our shoulders to where we're never able to really stop and think through the implications of our beliefs and things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to call people lazy for choosing that path or anything, but it is the easy, it's the soma, right? It's the, I mean, there's a reason why many leaders like Constantine have used it to unify their society under it. I mean, when you don't have to worry about, should I pray to Apollo or should I pray to Dionysus, or, you know, when you don't have to worry about all of like the animism. I think that's why monotheism, or at least henotheism, became the most popular in the end, because it's like you would have to keep up with this whole pantheon of gods, and I need to sacrifice to this god on Tuesday, and I need, you know, and this festival on that. Like, if you just have one easy prepackaged worldview, it's a lot easier to unify people under it. It's a lot more like stable, I guess, societally, if you can have sort of a unified like monoculture.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest things. We get accused of being like fragmented and stuff like that. But that poem that I shared at that poetry slam, it's like, are we fragmented, or are we being complex by saying there's not just one easy prepackaged answer? I would argue that we're being, you know, we're trying to be complex and not just find the easiest solution to all of our woes, which I don't know I don't want to speak for a lot of other people or anything, but I feel like it was a lot of my issues answered when I fell into that. It was because it answered a lot of my issues.
Yeah, it's true. And it feels too like with these relationships, you get to a point where you're having to say to yourself at a certain point, and Noelle and I kind of touched on this too, but like at a certain point, it's not recoverable. And you always put out that hope where you're like, I wish and I hope, and if the door opens up, I will be right there for it. It's like a prodigal son's father. Like, you know, you want to go live in the pigsty, go live in the pigsty, but the minute you come back, I'm going to give you the fatted calf. I'm going to give you the beautiful robe. I am ready to welcome you with open arms. But if you insist on the pigsty of Christianity, you insist on the poison, what can I say? You're a grown adult. You're allowed to make your own choices. And it's interesting how it's like a parallel to so much in Christianity and even in Judaism. When you look at the Old Testament stories, a lot of them, you could really sum it up this way. You could say Yahweh is basically like grabbing Israel by the collar and shaking him like, why are you intent on dying? Like, why do you want to die so much? Why do you want to go out to the other nations and be an idolater and face this cursing when I've got so much blessing? Why are you so intent on dying? Let me give you life. And that's kind of like what Yahweh's doing over and over and over. He does a shitty job of it, but he's like, that's what he's kind of doing. And it's like you're doing it in reverse now. Like, why are you intent on throwing your life away to mythology?
Yeah.
But at a certain point, just like Yahweh kind of says, I wrote Israel a certificate of divorce. Like, you really want to go whore with Babylon, then go. You know, I'm going to write you a certificate of divorce, and now God and Israel are divorced. And it's like at a certain point, it sucks to say it, but it's a certain point
we can't be the saviors of the world.
Yeah, we can't be the savior of the world, and we have to say, if you're really intent on doing this, I believe in thought autonomy, and I will give you the freedom to do what you want to do with your beliefs. And if you really want to follow Yahweh and Jesus, damn, it hurts, but go for it. Have at it. If that's really the most important thing in the world to you, then have at it. It stinks, especially those who will write each other off over it. You know, the Christians will write us off, the JWs will write us off. Yeah. But it's like, shun me if you need to, but you know what? My door is always open, but I respect your choice, but I hate that the relationship is gone. And if you're really intent, though, if this is like, you're going to go through this 110 miles an hour, what can I say except I wish you well. I mean, I wish you a really good life. I wish you happiness, not in a patronizing way. Like, I really wish you happiness. I hope that your choices bring you happiness, but I'm sad that it's costing us a relationship. And, you know, fortunately there are relationships where it doesn't. I've interviewed, like, for example, Steve Jakatis from up in Canada. He's, you know, a well-known humanist. I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times now, and he and his wife are in a mixed faith marriage. He's probably a nominal Christian, but she's a Christian, and he's an atheist, obviously. Other people come on and say something similar, like, we you know, my spouse disagrees, but we prioritize the marriage above all. We love each other. And for other people,
I was just telling Noelle last night, there's no way. I think if Phil would not have left with me, like, I think I would have been too chicken. I'm not sure I could have left without him, because like I already lost like everybody else, right? It's like I couldn't lose him. He's like, you know, my best friend kind of thing. And it just, that really, I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't think I could have left. I wouldn't have done it. I would not have done it. And so, I mean, I can see how people stay in that kind of stuff too, for that reason. If it really is going to cost them all of that. But yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. Well, I know we're probably here to wrap up point for the night, but I know I'm wrapping us up on a sad note in a sense, and I don't like to do that. I know it's hard to bring up a depressing topic and just be like, well, that's it, folks. That's the depressing topic for the day.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as there's some times when we all know that positivity can be good, but it can also be toxic.
Yeah.
I just want to say, maybe as a takeaway that's a little less intense on the depression side of this whole loss, is that maybe just one of the takeaways, less about hopefulness, just more about how to respond, is to just respect yourself through this. You know, a lot of the deconversion process has been us respecting ourselves enough to say, I'm going to pursue the truth and I'm going to be brave. And an after effect of this is you now have to set some boundaries around the religious, the Christian pressure. You know, you're going to protect your dignity. You're going to protect your energy, your clarity, your mental steadiness. You know, you can love them while restricting their access to the point where if they're going to berate you and patronize you and say you're going to burn in hell, and man, oh man, you're ruining our family because you're not a Christian anymore. You know, when you reclaim your adulthood, in many ways for us as former believers, that's going to be leading us straight to boundaries. We're available for connection, but we're not available for spiritual pressure. We're not available for evangelism.
In my experience,
there's a line.
It just didn't matter. Like when I tried to say that in my circles, with the fundamentalist beliefs, it was, there's like, we can't let you go. We can't, because we know you're going to, you know, I feel like in my circles, I was kind of the, one of the younger ones. Like I had a lot of older, I guess, mentors, that sort of thing. And so and Phil too. And so when we kind of left, you know, and that had been the church that I'd been in forever, it was like, no, we can't let you go. We can't just drop this because it means so much to us. And we know that it used to mean so much to you, and we can't just let you burn, you know, or lead others astray or do whatever. And so they just kept coming and kept coming. And it was so sad. It was the hardest, and I'm sorry, we're getting back to depressing stuff, but I had to do the same thing Noelle did. I had to just block a lot of people, because it was just one thing after the other. If I would even post anything on my page that was slightly liberal, that was not in accordance with those fundamentalist beliefs, it was just like a torrent of people coming into my comments to tell me how wrong I was or whatever. And it's like half of it would be like, we love you, and the other half would be like, but you're gonna burn, kind of thing, you know. Yep. And they really, I think they really meant it in a lot of them meant it in a decent way, like to try to get me back, to try to reel back in, sort of thing. And it just, but it's so unhealthy to sit in that space where you're the ostracized one, where you're the one that everyone needs to win you back. And you can't, I mean, my disbelief was not a matter of disobedience. It was not a choice. Disbelief isn't a choice. It's something you come to a realization of. Same thing with belief. You can't choose to believe in something. You're convinced of it, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so to be that in their mind, like that I chose to reject God and to disobey God and to rely upon my own understanding. How dare I? Anyway, it just, in their minds, it was disobedience, and it was like, oh, what a shame, you know, that we, you know, lost her or whatever. what a shame that we lost that sweet couple that used to be the college and career group leaders, and we've known since they were yay high, and we discipled them, and like I know that had to have hurt them too, but like you can't live in that space where you're that person to other people, because that's gonna like psychologically damage you if you think that's like, when everybody thinks that's who you are, like you do become that to yourself, I guess, like self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing, like self-destructive. I don't know. I've seen that happen to people. But
yeah,
I know I'm talking and talking and talking, and we're reaching the end here, so I'll let you go. But yeah.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts.
Topic.
You're always I always love to hear from you. And if I could, I'm just going to add a quick thought, and feel free to add one more comment to this if you want to end us on a positive note. But
yeah,
I think as we do say to ourselves, like, what does it look like to build our lives after Christianity and after our loved ones choose Christianity after us? A lot of us, I think, arguably find that there are things that they're not going to replace our old loved ones, but they still make life beautiful. It could be anything, such as the new friendships we make online or in real life. It could be the fact that maybe we're focused more on being better parents than ever to our kids. I certainly am in that category. Maybe a lot of it is just learning how to rest better than ever, or learning to enjoy pleasure, learning new things. Like a lot of us arguably learning more about science than ever before, and everyday joys. It might be something like just taking walks. It might be taking a dance class. It might be reading more. And learning to truly play in your life, to be certainly tender with yourself, and to be having honest conversations and honest self-talk conversations, and just enjoying sort of the everyday plain miracle of normal life. Like every day, watching the sunrise, watching the sunset when you can, and like we've spent our lives circling, like a plane that's not supposed to land yet. Like we're just circling the airport, we're circling the old system, and it's a beautiful thing to say, what, I can't have everything I wanted in these relationships, but you know what? I can make chocolate chip pancakes on a Sunday morning. I can do things to make my kids laugh. I can make coffee, and I sure do to make that. I can enjoy some long conversations with friends. I can take a long walk, just to make life richer in every other way. But, you're relieving room for them to change, relieving room for them to be coming back. We're always open for them to come back. But we're also refusing to pause our lives for them. We're not going to say, I'm going to just freeze everything until you come back. We still love them. And some people may surprise us and say, yep, I see what you're saying. But some people we know we're going to remain in this mythology until the end of their days. But we're going to have to just let both parts of that experience live side by side. But we're not going to, in a sense, like, people can change, but we're not going to build our calendar around the possibility of when are you going to change? When are you going to change? It'd be kind of like a parallel would be like someone that's saying, my marriage is over. We should probably get a divorce. There's been no kindness. There's no closeness. There's no friendship. We're just like, we're worse than roommates. But like, Christians kind of often set up people in those Christian marriages to say, you can't leave. You can't get divorced. God hates divorce. Even though God is himself divorced, he says, divorce Israel, but he hates divorce. So you can't do it. And so you kind of live your life as a Christian thinking, someday, somehow this marriage is going to get healed. Someday it'll be fixed. And you're unwilling to admit, like, it might not ever get fixed. And you're building your whole life around this calendar in your head of someday. I can't wait till that day arrives. And the ache, the Bible says that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. And like, you live in that hope deferred dynamic for so long. You're like, oh my God, it hurts so much. Like, when is my marriage going to come back to life? And it's like, at a certain point, you got to say to yourself, it might, but it might not. And you cannot live your whole life waiting for something that is currently dead or not good to just be better spontaneously. You do what you can, but if the other party won't choose to also do something good towards a resolution, then eventually, like, I can't do anything more than what I can do. I tried. And I think
it can't be one-sided.
Yeah. And I mean, if honest conversation matters to the other party, I'm here. I'm ready for an honest conversation. But I can't just arrange my whole life around the future possibility that maybe someday you might just open your eyes. And I think that's where I land at the moment. It's just like,
Yeah.
you do your best, but also you live your life, and you say, my door is always open, but if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to spend my whole life wringing my hands like, oh, woe is me, I've lost so much. There was a season for that. Like Ecclesiastes said, there's a time for this and that. There's a time for weeping. There's a time for laughing. There's a time for weeping. And some of us need to weep really hard. We've lost a lot. But at a certain point, you dust yourself off, you pick yourself up, and you say, you know what? My season of mourning, my crying is over. It's time for me to live my life. And
Yeah.
that can be depressing, but I think we need to arguably find as much joy as we can in the journey. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. But do you have any final thoughts on that or anything else?
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I think that's a really healthy place to land, to like not say I'm shutting the door and I'm locking it forever. Like I would still be, open to having conversations with you or whatever in the future, but I just can't live in this space where I'm nothing to you, or I'm bad to you or whatever, bad in your eyes or something like that. Like, because you can't live in that space. It's unhealthy for you to live in that space where you're the person who's bad in that person's eyes, and it's like you're not going to be able to have a nice relationship, a good relationship, if the person you're with or the people you're with think that you are inherently bad in some way, and that's exactly what their religion teaches them. So it's. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's a really mature and a really healthy thing to say. I'm leaving the door open though, because we don't want to be like the Christian people who, like, if you don't believe, it's like it's my way or the highway, and that's it, and I'm going to cut you out forever, and we're never having a conversation again. Like, I had to block people on my Facebook. I would still love to hear from those people again. Honestly, I would still love it if I could ever have a conversation with those people. I'm not mad at them, but I had to do that as a healing thing for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. At some point, self-care comes into this pretty intensely. You have to take care of yourself. Yeah. Well, I appreciate so much you jumping in, Shell. This has been great to talk to you. Thank you so very much. And again, please keep an eye out for other topics you might want to jump into this week. I'm trying my best to do as many as I can. I can't always do them. My kids have worn me thin. I don't have the kids for a few more days here till they're back. They're back on Friday afternoon, but I've got a few days by myself. But they wore me plumb thin, so I'm trying my best to do what I can. But when I do jump in, please feel free to jump in with your comments if you have a bandwidth. I know you're busy with your kids too, but always great to have you on the channel.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have a good night.
Thanks, Shell. You too. Bye-bye. Well, thank you all so much. There's a bunch of comments that came in. I did block the troll a while ago, but I'm not going to read all the comments just since we're getting closer to almost 3 hours. But this has been really good. It's really good. Thank you so much for those of you that did have the comments. Let me see here. We just got a troll. Yay! All right. Goodbye. Have fun. But yeah, at the end of the day, these are depressing topics, but we have to be honest with them. We have to do what we can to heal, and also to open the door for them when they want to come back. We're not going to be jackasses to them in the meantime. Not going to be like, oh, you're so bad and you're so stupid. You want to leave the door open enough with enough kindness that if they do come back, they're going to want to talk to you and say, you've been a nice person through this process. Not, yeah, you're technically correct, and now we're technically both atheists, but you're a jerk. So I'm going to be an atheist, but I still want nothing to do with you. You don't want that. We don't want that. It's not where we want to go with this. But anyway, thank you all so much for being a part of my life and let me be a part of yours. I love you all, and we'll be doing more. Just so you know, tomorrow I do have a couple live streams planned. Fingers crossed I can keep them. On Tuesday, I have back-to-back interviews. I've got one currently, assuming no one cancels. I've got one at 12 noon and again at 6 p.m. Eastern, so it's going to be a busy day for interviews. And then I actually have something similar on a Wednesday. I've got an interview at 1 p.m. and then again at 6:30 p.m. So quite a few interviews, and it's more on Thursday. But I'm mixing in live streams as much as I can when I don't have interviews. So some good stuff, some really interesting people coming on. The two people on Tuesday are both it's Allison and then Christy. They're both therapists. They're counselors, so they're going to be great to talk to. I'm really looking forward to that. And then also, if any of you have been watching the platforms for Andy Hikes, y'all know that Andy Hikes. That's just the guy named Andy who does hikes, but he's been talking about this a lot on his platform. He's coming on again, assuming we don't have a cancellation. He's coming on Wednesday afternoon as well. So if you haven't seen Andy Hikes, he's bravely just telling the world what he thinks about this stuff. So good stuff. But looking forward to hearing about his interesting hikes around the world, but also more importantly about his deconversion. But please check him out. I'll have everything. If you're my friend on Facebook, do whatever you have to do so you see my page, and you'll see I do put stuff out there, as well as on the Harmonic Atheist Facebook page, as well as I have another Facebook page called God is Imaginary. I post on all those. But please do. And of course, if you just subscribe on YouTube and then hit the bell, it'll pop up and say, hey, Tim's going live in whatever 20 minutes do you want to join. So appreciate you all. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you have a really good night, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks again. Love y'all.